I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
Good morning, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Snowman in the Morning. Oh boy, I had to recover from my trip to Charlotte. Our social media, SNW Digital Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. And you can hear us live on RTFSportsNetwork.com, as well as FullPressCoverage.com, ArenaSportsNet.com, and KSRNAZ.com for the folks down in the Valley of the Sun. Yeah, it's hot. It's a hot show today. Oh man, lots to get into. Couple conversations that you may have heard before, you'll hear again. But I want to start with this. Brady to the Bay. What? Rumor going around, and speculations abound that Tom Brady, yes, that Tom Brady, the 6-time Super Bowl champion, wants to win number 7, but he wants to do it in San Francisco? Yeah, people are speculating that one of the landing spots could be my beloved San Francisco 49ers. Wow. This news stunned me. And, you know, after hearing my buddy Mike Debate's Locked On Patriots program, a fabulous program you need to listen to on the Locked On Network, I started thinking about it, and I'm going, huh? No. Because I thought he'd stay with New England, but there's a couple weeks, we're a couple weeks away from free agency. And, of course, the hot commodity, if you want to call it that, and I mean that from the fact that I don't think Tom Brady's going anywhere, then this was thrown at me. But the hot commodity is Tom Brady. 20 years in New England, 6 Super Bowl championships, countless records, countless division titles, and now this gets thrown at me. And again, I'm sitting there going, what? Because they already paid a boatload of money to Jimmy Garoppolo. The 49ers handed Garoppolo, who was basically stolen from New England for a second-round pick, because the 49ers needed a franchise quarterback. So New England trades Jimmy Garoppolo to San Francisco 3 years ago, and the 49ers seen enough footage of Garoppolo to hand him a boatload of money for a 5-year contract. Now this. And sometimes, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, and you hear all these rumors, one, professionally, you try to tune them out, and you're going, nah, I'm the guy here in San Francisco. They don't want to do that to me. But at the same time, if you have a chance to win a Super Bowl with Tom Brady when you were 6 minutes away from the Super Bowl last year, part of you wants to pull the trigger and make the deal. Financially, the 49ers can do it. What would they have to give up? Not a damn thing. Financially, they can do it. They can keep their draft capital. They can still work on their secondary, because secondary is the weak spot for this 49er team which is arguably the most complete team in the NFL, save the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. But then again, why would you want to make this move? And I know a lot of people are going to push back against this, but hear me out. Why would you want to make this move when the fellow you snatched from New England got you to the Super Bowl? There should have been some better play calling, yeah, but the guy you paid $73 million of guaranteed money for 5 years got you to the promised land, got you to the Super Bowl. Why would you want to bring in a 42-year-old quarterback who's arguably done it all, who's arguably one of the greatest to ever do it, who is arguably the greatest to ever do it, but I will never say that because, there's a guy named Joe Montana who did it for me, but I digress. You've given Garoppolo $100 million contract. You give him 73 up front, and you're telling Garoppolo, look, you're our guy. You're going to get us multiple titles. I still believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. I still believe Jimmy Garoppolo is the man. But if you bring in Tom Brady, it's just going to set Garoppolo back to the point of, what the hell did I do wrong? It's going to make Garoppolo think, what did I do wrong? Now, professionally, he wouldn't say that. He'd welcome the idea of you would think he would kind of welcome the idea of his mentor, the man who taught him what he needs to know as a quarterback, the man who is still doing it at age 43, to give him a chance. Hey, give me a couple more. But it would be Montana and Young all over again. Until Jimmy Garoppolo wins a Super Bowl on his own, he will always be regarded as a backup. Even though he threw 27 touchdowns last year against 13 interceptions, he nearly threw for 4,000 yards, 3,987, I think it sort of was, 3,987 yards. He led multiple game-winning drives, including in that classic in New Orleans. He's got all these tools, and the 49ers are looking to get better. And yet, you got a big old carrot dangling in front of you by the name of Tom Brady. Tom Brady, and a lot of people have said this, Tom Brady would have won that Super Bowl in Miami. Would he have? Would he have called the right plays? Would he have been given permission to call his own plays? Maybe that's the key for Jimmy Garoppolo. Let him call his own plays. Let him read the defenses because he's great at it. He's absolutely great at it. Let him read some defense. Let him work on what he needs to work on. You already basically kept this 49er team together. You can jettison Jerick McKinnon, who you paid a boatload of money to for a 3-year deal, and he's missed 2 years with injuries. You can jettison him if you need some more room. But I just don't think, as much as I would like to think it's a good fit for San Francisco, for Tom Brady to be there and to go out on top, I really think that if Tom Brady came to the Bay, of course the ultimate prize is winning Super Bowls. But what would this do for the confidence of Jimmy Garoppolo after the 49ers 3 years ago paid him a boatload of money, brought him to San Francisco for a second-round pick, and say, you're the man, you're our franchise quarterback. And then you bring in the franchise quarterback of most franchise quarterbacks in Tom Brady. It would be a quarterback controversy out the first, number one. Number two, it would destroy Jimmy Garoppolo's confidence. Number three, which is a positive, yeah, you would like to think that you'd win the Super Bowl easily with Tom Brady as your quarterback, but at the same time, you have to remember Tom Brady was in a different system. Bill Belichick got Tom Brady those Super Bowl titles. Another question would be, would Tom Brady trust Kyle Shanahan enough to follow his play calling. Now, if you bring Tom Brady in to San Francisco, you get a boatload of knowledge. A boatload of knowledge. But for Brady, you'd go from Josh McDaniels being your OC to a former OC in Kyle Shanahan, who's also the head coach. There's got to be a trust factor there. And another question you have to ask, would Brady want to make the move to the team that he admired for many years, to the team that he wanted to be a part of and imitate the man who became the man in Joe Montana? Would Brady want to make the move cross country for his family? Would it be a good fit for him? There are so many questions surrounding this and so much intrigue that I saw on a couple of programs that the number one destination for Tom Brady, crazy enough as it sounds, is the San Francisco 49ers. And that woke me up out of a dead sleep. I said, what? But then again, you bring in a fellow who won 6 Super Bowls into your organization looking for its 6th Super Bowl, has had 2 recent shots at it with 2 different quarterbacks but couldn't get the job done. All of that is in play. And Brady could easily make the decision, you know what, I played my entire career in New England, I'm going to stay in New England, which is what I expect to happen. But this is the juiciest part of the free agent speculation that I've been a part of as a fan and as a journalist for a long, long time. A long time. We will just have to see what happens, won't we? But it's going to be interesting. Good Lord, it's going to be interesting. What do you guys think? Tweet the show at SNW Digital Media. I'll take a pause for a break, and I got more for you. Back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Been a while since I had my next guest on, but he's on right now. This is William Morgan, and he joins me right now.
Hey.
What's up, man?
How you doing, man? Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, it's been a while. Been busy as we come to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's dive in, and let's dive into the XFL first. The Roughnecks remain undefeated, and St. Louis has a football team.
Yep. And we've also are coming to find out that the DC Defenders may end up being frauds.
Really? The floor is yours.
They might end up being frauds. You lost to Tampa Bay last week, 25-0 at home.
At home, yeah. After all the excitement, because DC kicked off the XFL season, and then they lost to Tampa Bay. That's like the Redskins losing to the Buccaneers when they're wearing their creamsicle uniforms.
And then don't forget, they also lost in week 3 also.
Yeah, they did.
So don't forget that either. It's just crazy. They're not playing football very well. You can hear some of the chatter on the field, and this is why I like the XFL experience. You can hear players mic'd up, so whatever they say, we hear it, and you can hear a bunch of misdirection and things of that nature. Receivers not running routes where it's supposed to. Cardell can't get the ball to where it's supposed to be. But it's a doggone shame because I picked Cardell Jones as my fantasy quarterback, and he's not coming up to snuff.
Nope. I mean, Defenders 2-2 right now, and Tampa Bay gets their first victory. Let's go to Dallas or Arlington in this case.
Mm-hmm.
The Renegades lose a tough one to Houston, 27-20. What's making the Houston Roughnecks stand out and remain undefeated?
That offense. They're playing very good offense. They're playing decent defense, but that offense has been amazing. I call him the truth. The quarterback for the Houston Roughnecks is playing very, 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 very well. And Walker, he was 25 of 41, 239 yards. He had 2 TDs. He did have an interception, but you can live off of that. This offense is just cooking on all cylinders, and it's different people doing it.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, for Dallas, Landry Jones, a rough afternoon, 25 of 38, 205 yards. He threw a touchdown, but threw 3 interceptions. That Houston defense really helped them get the win in Dallas.
Yeah, it really, really did. Again, in Landry Jones' case, he's still fighting off rust.
Yeah, it might be.
Is what you want to say, but you think he'll be in the groove by now.
You would think.
Let's see what they do in week 5. Yeah.
You would think he'd be in the groove right now. Speaking of in the groove, Ta'amu for St. Louis was in a great groove on Sunday. 20 of 27, 264 yards. He threw a touchdown, and this St. Louis offense is starting to click.
And the fan base is also coming out to support that team, too. They opened up a particular row of seats finally, and the fans are really getting out there supporting that team. That offense is coming into its own, and it's going to be interesting because week 5, they got the DC Defenders, and the DC Defenders will be at home. So we shall see if DC can get the win or the Battlehawks just keep doing what they've been doing.
And speaking of frauds, look at the LA Wildcats. They lose to New York 17-14 at MetLife Stadium. The Guardians are now 2-2. They're very much in the playoff picture. What's happened to the Wildcats?
Inconsistency. Just being inconsistent. If you watch their games, they're just very inconsistent in terms of moving the football the way that they should. I don't get their issue. I don't get one minute they look to be world beaters, and the next minute they're just playing terrible football. Don't forget the week before they beat the Defenders.
Mm-hmm. They did, and
39-9.
39-9.
It was 39-9. They look outstanding in that game. Backup cornerbacks were doing their thing, getting their hands on balls, tipping balls, getting interceptions. Offense, special teams are doing their thing. But then you look at this week, it's just inconsistency. If the Wildcats can put it together, I think they can be a really decent team. They only lost by 3 points, so they were right there the whole time through.
Yeah. Let's take a look at next week, week 5. Can you believe it's week 5 already? And the one game I'm looking at is the New York Guardians and the Dallas Renegades. Somebody's going to get their 3rd win of the year, and that'll be Saturday at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas. Take a look at that one and tell me what you see.
Something's got to give. Something has got to give. I don't know. I tend to go with the Renegades on this one, but it's just something about the Guardians to me. There's something about it that I think they're a little bit better than their record indicates, and part of me wants to pick them, but the other half doesn't. And
understood.
Yeah, their quarterback situation still isn't the best. Even though they got a win against the Wildcats 17, even though they got a win against the Wildcats last week. So, yeah, that's gonna be a toughie. That's going to be a toughie.
The game of the I really believe, besides the two that we've already previewed, the Guardians and the Renegades and the Battlehawks and the Defenders, there's a trap game in Houston. The Seattle Dragons and the Houston Roughneck. You know where I'm going.
There's no trap game there. There's no trap game there. No.
There's no trap game. You don't think it's a trap game for Houston?
Game.
Okay.
You can't trust Brandon Silvers for nothing. You can't.
You really can't. You really can't.
You can't trust him.
How bad will it get?
You cannot trust him at all.
How bad will it get?
Oh, it could be ugly. It could be ugly.
Oh boy.
It could get ugly. It could get ugly real quick. Houston's defense is good enough. The front four is good enough to cause a lot of problems, and that's my team. But they're just not good enough. And issues at quarterback, Quentin Flowers leaving, taking an unexpected leave of absence. I don't think it's a leave of absence he's taken. I think he's just unhappy with his role was on the team, so he decides to leave.
Yeah.
Just turmoil. Silvers is not. He'll show flashes here and there, but for the most part, he's not what he needs to be either. Philip Walker's playing very, very well right now. That offense is clicking on all cylinders. That whole team is playing on all cylinders. I just can't see Seattle doing much against that team.
That's the wrap-up in the XFL. William Mayfield, stand by. I know I'll have you on later to talk some NBA. And, folks, when he and I talk NBA, it's fun. Back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Well, folks, down the stretch we come in the NBA. There's about, I'd say, a little over a month and a half left. But we still have some questions to answer. And to help me do that is the man in charge of Around the Association, Danny Thompson, now joins me. How are you, my friend?
What's up, Brian? How's everything going for you, sir?
Everything is great as we are coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Got a bit of an assignment to do. I'll explain more a little later, so I'll be in Charlotte for the week. All right, let's do this. Let's start in the East. Pick a team that everyone's ballyhooing, but you see so many holes in their game that they could be ousted early in the playoffs.
We're talking the Philadelphia 76ers. It's kind of crazy. A week ago, we were just talking about, the Sixers can make a run. Now Ben Simmons' back goes out, and the Sixers are in serious trouble because they didn't acquire a point guard at the deadline.
Yep.
Nothing against Raul Neto or anybody that looks like a point guard, but now Josh Richardson has to take a bigger role as the lead guard. And, Embiid has a little bit of a shoulder issue right now, but right now, the most important thing is I think Embiid will be fine when we get towards April and we get into the playoffs. But if Ben Simmons isn't healthy, and back injuries, as you know, Brian, are not exactly the easiest thing to diagnose.
Oh, no.
Because it can be tricky from here to here, point A to point B. The Sixers are the team that's most in danger. But before Simmons' back went out, I thought Indiana was in trouble too.
Yeah, but Indiana is a surprise, competing in the East. What do you think of their chances once the playoffs begin?
Well, Jeremy Lamb's season and the injury might have changed a lot of things in Indiana because, Jeremy Lamb was one of those guys that was brought in to help get Victor Oladipo's transition back after being out for an entire year. It's just to ease that transition. Now without Jeremy Lamb, who was expected to be your sixth man when Oladipo became completely healthy and looking like himself, now that means the Holiday brothers are going to have to take bigger roles. And they played well. They played solid in the times that Oladipo was out and also when Malcolm Brogdon this time. But you're now asking the Holiday brothers to do more. And, Jeremy Lamb is one of the better rebounding guards in the league that people don't really realize. He's one of the better rebounders. And not to have him on the floor is going to hurt. I mean, like I said, Victor's not back to being Victor yet. We're hoping that he'll round into form in the next 6 weeks. But Indiana could be in trouble and could be one of those teams where I thought they can cause damage, but they might not get out of the first round either.
Yeah, and the depth really took a hit with the injury to Jeremy Lamb.
It did.
How about a couple of other teams? Who's flying under the radar right now?
Well, as much as people don't want to realize or want to say this, I know it's flying under the radar is kind of interesting, is the Boston Celtics. We all have watched Milwaukee just obliterate everybody they've gotten their hands on this year. With 51-8 right now. Toronto's playing outstanding basketball, and it seems like Pascal Siakam's getting better and better every single day. Fred VanVleet is ready to take over Kyle Lowry's position another year or so as that bulldog, that guy down the stretch. But people aren't talking about the Boston Celtics, even though Jason Tatum is putting himself up there saying, hey, I'm this good. And the one thing about the Celtics is that they're doing this without Kemba Walker being healthy.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to say it might have been, now you're playing the what-if game, but, man, did they even really need Kemba Walker? And that's saying something when you have you have an all-star in Kemba Walker, but the Celtics are just as good without him as they are with him.
And
they're flying under the radar. And if they can figure out how to put Kemba Walker in this thing, they have just as good a chance as anybody to beat Milwaukee in the playoff series.
That is a scary, scary concept. That's very scary that they can be that good, A, for a time without Gordon Hayward, and B, now without Kemba Walker. And the Boston Celtics are still playing very well. Do they have an outside chance to snatch a number 2 seed from Toronto?
I don't. 2 and 3 in the East don't really mean much. I really don't think, because to be honest with you, 2 and 3 might mean a game 7 at home in a second round playoff series against the other team. But I think Boston is just as good enough to walk into Toronto and beat the Raptors just the same way as Toronto is good enough to beat Boston on their home floor in game 7. I really, the most important thing is if you have a chance to get it, go get it. Boston has that ability to do it. I don't think Boston is that pressed, to be honest with you. I think they're more concerned about who are they going to play in the playoffs more than getting that second seed, because to be honest with you, I don't know. I'd rather play a more banged up Indiana team than they have to deal with Joel Embiid in the first round, or potentially if I can catch 2, that means I get my hands on Orlando.
Yeah.
And I know I can beat Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so very true. So who's the first round? Who finally gets that 8 seed and becomes the first round snack for Milwaukee?
It's Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn is a 500 team without Kyrie Irving being healthy. I don't see Washington being consistent enough to catch them. Chicago is a mess.
Yeah.
Even though they have talent galore. Detroit threw the white flag weeks ago, and Charlotte can't seem to get out of their own way in fourth quarters, and they've been getting, and Malik Monk's suspension doesn't help either.
No.
So, and then the rest of the East is what Cleveland, New York, Atlanta. None of those teams are going to make any type of impact. Like I said, because Chicago and Washington don't have. Washington's Bradley Beal has been phenomenal, but there's really nothing around him until John Wall gets back. And Chicago, like I said, is a mess. So I think Brooklyn gets it by default.
And it's so sad that the Bulls are a mess right now. It's not the talent on the team; it's the coaching and it's the general manager. It's the management and the coach. It's just a mess.
And not to mention, Wendell Carter Jr. is still out. Mallory Markin has not been healthy. Otto Porter Jr. has only played 6 games this year.
Yeah,
they've dealt with their share of injuries. I'm not going to sit here and say that Garpax and Boylan are not at fault for any of this.
Right.
The Bulls have talent. Kobe White has been scoring 30 points a game off the bench repeatedly for the last 10 days.
Yep.
Zach LaVine is arguably the best player in the league that really nobody knows that really pays attention to, and they have talent. It's just that coaching and health has not been in the Bulls' favor this year.
Yeah, that is so true, and it still angers me that Zach LaVine in my hometown was not elected an All-Star.
I think Bradley Beal had a better case than LaVine did.
Okay,
and neither one on the All-Star team.
Yeah, true. If anything, both should have been on the All-Star team. Let's go to the West, and we're going to start at the bottom. Who gets the privilege of being the first-round snack for the Lakers?
Here's the thing: the Grizzlies have to get it together. I mean, they did look good against Houston, and of course, Houston outshot them. But then last night they won a game. They lost to the Kings in a game you're supposed to win.
Yeah,
and it's like every day the Pelicans are getting momentum. They blew out the Cavs last night. Mm-hmm. They're starting to find the rhythm. They're starting to figure out how to make Zion and the two Duke guys, Zion and Brandon Ingram, work. The Duke Blue Devils South, as I call them, because half that roster are Duke Blue Devils.
Right.
With what? Redick, Ingram, Zion. Feels like I'm missing Duke Blue Devils everywhere, but it's like Duke Blue Devils South down there.
Yeah, it is.
They're starting to get it together. And once Brian, we watch this. If you start getting momentum and a team starts to slide, there's a stretch of games in the month of March where the Pelicans and the Grizzlies play, I think, 2 times in 3 nights in March.
Yes.
That can change the entire complexion of the playoffs right now. If the Pelicans are still playing good basketball by the time we get that home and home, it could be arguably some of the most entertaining and best basketball we'll see into the playoffs.
Yeah.
New Orleans can catch them.
Yeah, I'm not
sure about Portland. I'm not sure about Portland yet.
Now I was hoping, Portland is sliding, and it's so horrible because Portland was my wild card pick to snatch that 8 spot. But you're so right about Memphis and New Orleans. They got a home and home coming up in March. And if they split, then it'll be even down the way. But if one team gets both of those games, then you talk about momentum heading into the playoffs. In the middle of that pack in the Western Conference, you got teams like Denver, you got teams like Utah. Look at those two for me, and tell me, what do you see from those two?
So the thing with the Denver Nuggets is people have the impression the Nuggets are the 3rd best team in the West because we talk about the 2 LA teams.
Right.
Denver has just as good a chance to win the West as anybody, and the only difference is that Denver's road to the NBA Finals ironically doesn't go through Nikola Jokic or doesn't go through Jamal Murray. Those 2 guys are established. Mm-hmm. They have great bench scoring with Will Barton, Paul Millsap, Jeremy Grant. Those guys are very versatile. They switch. The thing that's going to hold the key for the Denver Nuggets is Gary Harris. They trade Malik Beasley to Minnesota because he wanted more playing time. They've given Gary Harris his big contract, and for as good a defender he is, his shot's not falling. If Gary Harris goes back to the form where he was hitting 44, 45% 2 years ago and was actually had a good playoff series a couple of years ago, if he gets back to that level, Denver has enough pieces to beat the Lakers. They have enough pieces to beat the Clippers. But Gary Harris is the complete key. In the same way with Utah, the key for Utah is Mike Conley. If Conley goes and finds some health and goes back to the Mike Conley we saw in Memphis when they were making the playoffs, and goes back to being that best player in the league that's never made the All-Star team, and he finds health, the Jazz can beat almost anybody in the West because you have Rudy Gobert down low, and nobody wants to challenge Gobert when he's actually on his game.
True.
You have Donovan Mitchell, who is a fourth-quarter guy. He's streaky at times, but he has the killer instinct. You have guys on the wing who can shoot the basketball, and Bogdanovich and Joe Ingles. Joe Ingles is a good ball handler. And now Royce O'Neal is one of the most underrated defenders in the league. You got all those pieces all around the floor. Mike Conley has to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, the Jazz can make a deep run at this thing. But it really depends on Conley. So like I said, you have 2 X factors, Gary Harris and Mike Conley.
Now let's take a look at a team. You talk about flying under the radar. The Oklahoma City Thunder, who many picked to be at the bottom of the Western Conference, are 14 games over 500. And they're sitting in that number 6 spot. They would draw the Clippers in the first round if the playoffs were to start today.
The one thing about the Thunder is that, like you're right, I didn't have them in the playoffs. I thought Chris Paul would have been gone a long time ago. They would figure out a way to move him somewhere.
Yeah.
But Chris Paul has had we're talking about not just a renaissance season. We're saying Chris Paul should be on the Olympic team. That's how much of a change Chris Paul has made in literally 10 months. He went from being basically a throwaway guy in Houston, a guy that took a lot of the blame for the Rockets not getting there, to leading a Thunder team that was extremely young, that, they had talent, but we didn't think they were going to be that good. He's made Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on that level where you're saying that the Paul George trade isn't one-sided anymore. SGA has become one of the better two guards in the league, even though he's really a point guard. He's made shots easier for Danilo Gallinari. And this team is still winning with Andre Roberson. Now, as far as playoffs go, on Friday night, we saw them play against the Milwaukee Bucks. When you talk about an elite team going against the Thunder, and we saw the Thunder get the doors blown off them on Friday night. They can keep up in a playoff series. The thing is, it's all about matchups. I don't think they want to play the Clippers. I think they'd rather play the Nuggets instead of the Clippers. So really, it's can they get their hands on Denver? Because I don't think they'll catch 5. I think honestly, if you have to, I would punt to stay away from Kawhi Leonard as long as possible.
Yeah, I would too. One team we did not look at, a couple of teams we didn't look at. They're both in Texas. Houston at the 4, Dallas at the 7. Let's start in Dallas. They seem to be sliding a little bit in that 7 spot.
You know what though? It's not really sliding. It's the fact that, like you said, there's a big bunch between, like you said, that 4. That 3 through 7 spot, even though I know Dallas has a chance of catching 3, but the Clippers, that 4 through 7 spot is going to be interchangeable. The thing with the Dallas Mavericks is that they have to find consistency outside of Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis because they're playing some of their best basketball right now.
Right.
Finding that third guy, whether it be Tim Hardaway Jr. to score consistently, whether it be Curry, and finding defense with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. If they can find some consistency out of a third guy on that team, I think Dallas could stay at 4. But don't sleep on the Houston Rockets. I know people laugh at the small ball, PJ Tucker being the 5. But remember, when Houston's hitting 3-point shots, they're almost unbeatable. We saw that the other night against Memphis. If Russell Westbrook is getting to the lane and causing problems, you have shooters galore. And if Westbrook is hitting shots, and I know, Brian, you're the biggest Westbrook fan I know. If Russell Westbrook is hitting shots, James Harden's life becomes easier.
True.
If James Harden's life is easier offensively, help us all.
Give you
Just
that.
help us all. If James Harden has an easy offensive life, then it's curtains. Because James Harden's the most, even with people talking about his, how many steps he takes to the basket, other than Giannis, is the most dominant offensive player in the league when he's completely on.
Yeah, but they have to be completely on. Like you said, they have to be completely on. That's our look at the playoff picture with Danny Thompson, the man in charge of Around the Association. Man, it's always a pleasure to have you on. We're going to get consistent with this because I want you on the show to help break down the playoffs and take us through the playoffs as the seeds get set, the teams get set, and we begin our march toward the World Championship Series. Thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Brian. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program as we roll right along here. Don't forget to check out all the festivities and the podcast on my new website, snowmandigitalmedia.com, and the ID you need for Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram is SNW Digital Media. Now, the guest that I have on the line for you, I haven't had this young lady on the line in 2 years. And the last time I had her on, I teased her mercilessly for a good 20 minutes. But we had a great conversation. She and I are two of the busiest people in sports. And if you follow along with what she's doing, you'll understand. She lived out a dream I'm going to make a reality next year. She had a chance to cover the Super Bowl. And I'm going to do that next year in Tampa. And I intend to see her at Raymond James Stadium. The guest I have for you is Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson of Listen In with KNN, and she joins me right now. How are you, my dear? It's been a while.
Hi, I am great. I cannot believe it's been 2 years. Truly, where does time go?
Man, look, the last time we spoke, you were just getting started in covering Georgetown, and we had a great piece about that. And like I said, she was at the Super Bowl in Miami. You got to take me through that experience. How was that covering the Super Bowl?
Oh my gosh. So this is now my second Super Bowl. Atlanta was my first. And it was in Miami, of course. It was like 80 degrees on game day. No coach needed. And then we had a great game. Mm-hmm. So it was like one of the most thrilling experiences because I was down there for 8 days. So you're doing Radio Row, you're doing a bunch of interviews beforehand. Yep. You have stars and celebrities all around you. You're going to different events. You're meeting people. Like, there's nothing like the Super Bowl. Now, I haven't been to NBA All-Star yet. I wanted to go this year, but I'm a bit too busy. So next year, that's on my list when it's in Indy.
Yep.
But I've heard only NBA All-Star even comes close to the joy of Super Bowl. But Super Bowl is like the most watched game in the entire country, right? So, I mean, nothing compares to that. And it's a fun time. Like, I remember everything, and it's something I think I'll remember until I go down in the grave. Like, it's just one of those things.
When I first had this young lady on the show, it was 2013, and she called on a whim, folks. She called on a whim. We had a great conversation then. We've kept in touch. She's been one of my best friends, not just in broadcasting, but in life. It's wonderful to have you on the show. And I have to pay you this compliment. Your program, Listen In with KNN, A, is a favorite of mine. B, I'm a faithful listener. Yay. And C, you had me on that program last summer, and it was a blast. Tell me how you got that program started.
Sure. Such a great question. So Listen In with Cannon is my baby, my brainchild. Mm-hmm. And it's just a show I wanted to start it. I thought it was a great way to showcase my personality, showcase my interview skills, and then I really wanted to have a wide range of guests and kind of go outside of the box. And so I've had a lot of great guests come through. It's a fun podcast. We talk about hot topics in sports. We, of course, talk about their background, even touch on controversial issues. And so I think it's just something people can go home and listen to or start their day with. And again, just listen in with Cannon and listen in with me, hear the conversation, comment your thoughts. And hopefully it's a podcast that everyone, no matter their background, no matter what sports they like, hopefully it's something they can get behind, rally behind. And I always say, I always want somebody to learn something and have fun. Those are my two goals, to learn something and have fun. So hopefully every podcast episode, I'm doing that job.
You are definitely doing those two things. And at the top of this year, I decided, I'm going to start recommending some podcasts to people aside of the podcast version of this show, which is an hour. The live show is 3 hours. And I fully recommend listening with KNN. She does have some great guests on there. And like I said, last summer, I had the opportunity to be on that program. And at the time we talked, we were talking NBA World Championship Series because I had correctly picked Golden State, but incorrectly picked Milwaukee. Toronto came out of nowhere, and not only did they win the East, they won the whole thing. And I showed them a lot of love on the program.
We the North.
Yeah, we the North. How did Mike Breen put it? We the North are now we the champions. And I absolutely love the way he put that. How's the show been going?
The show has been fantastic. I just had Santia Deck on. If people have been following women's football, she's with the newly formed Women's Football League Association, the first multi-million-dollar signee for that football league, which I thought was tremendous. And if you've been following this, you also know that Ja Rule bought the New York team in this league. So I think it's very promising. It's exciting. Of course, I think the biggest show I've had since we talked was when I had LeVar Ball on. And still to this day, that's been my top episode. It was a controversial episode, yes, because he called some people out. But we just had a good conversation, which was fantastic. I've had MLS stars on. I've had European Soccer League stars on. I had the USA Rugby coach on. I've had Mike Hill on, who, of course, congrats to him, is getting married to Miss Cynthia Daly on The Real Housewives. I mean, it's been so fun. I've had retired players, current players. So it's been everyone, and I really just try to have people on that are doing their thing in sports and just try to get them to share their story.
Yeah, and I'm starting to get that lineup also. I had some friends helping me get some stars for this show. So, folks, beginning in March, when we start covering the NCAA tournament, you'll see that star list kind of go up a couple of notches. But one star that I did have on the show, and we had a great conversation when I had my afternoon program, was Cliff Levingston, former two-time world champion with the Chicago Bulls. Started his career with with Detroit, I beg your pardon. Then he moved to Atlanta, and of course he finished his career with the Bulls. I tell you what, he had me cracking up laughing for a good 20 minutes with some of the questions I
Those
asked
are the
him.
best interviews.
And that is one. It is. It's one of my best. I'm going to put it on the website for Snowman Digital Media, and y'all need to check it out. But as soon as I asked him what was one of the worst arenas, and we're talking about the 80s and 90s when he played, as soon as I asked him one of the worst arenas where he didn't want to play, I kind of knew what his answer was, but as soon as he spat out Richfield Coliseum, Richfield, Ohio, I cracked up laughing.
Oh, hilarious!
It's like, and I know, and you've been through this. You kind of get the feeling you know what some of your guests' answers will be, but as soon as they spit them out, you just lose it. You just lose it, and you're like, I knew it. I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, that's too funny. But that's what makes the interview fun.
Yeah.
And, it really gives your listeners a chance to like dive in and feel a part of the conversation. But that's such a great answer.
It's like I kind of knew it would be Richfield Coliseum. Lord knows, I being from Chicago, saw Michael Jordan play his entire Chicago career. Didn't you get the feeling when you watched him play against the Cavaliers, he was trying to break their hearts on purpose, and he wound up doing it several times over?
Oh, yes. It was definitely a repeat and something that the Cavs may not forgive for.
May not forgive. I know so many Cavalier
Definitely
fans.
won't forgive.
Right,
There
exactly.
you go. Look, I saw burned jerseys and everything. So we know how that goes. Loyalty in the NBA.
I tease a lot of my Cavalier fans, and I told them, you know what the legacy of the Cavaliers is? And they look at me and they go, uh-oh, he's got a good one. I said, yeah, y'all remember a guy named Craig Elo? And they all start laughing. So what's it like, Ben? What's it like covering my first favorite college basketball team, the Georgetown Hoyas?
Yes, Hoya Saxa. Well, for me, it's a thrill and joy because, of course, I went to grad school at Georgetown.
Right.
And covering Georgetown now, I'm covering Georgetown football and basketball, and I actually will be at the women's game this Sunday when they face off against Villanova. But the men's team, it's been fun. Okay, we're in the Pat Ewing era.
Yes.
All right, we're talking about the one and only Pat Ewing. All right, so it's
yes, we're talking about number 33 for Georgetown and for the New York. Patrick Ewing was my first favorite college player, but then Michael Jordan hit a jump shot, and I have been torn since that night in '82 when Jordan hit the game winner because I wanted to see Georgetown win.
Oh,
They did 2 years later, but at the same time, in that game in '82, who knew that we would see so many not only repeat All-Stars but Hall of Famers in that game? Of course, Michael Jordan. Of course, Patrick Ewing.
Yep.
James Worthy, who wound up being the most outstanding player in that game. James Worthy, I still feel to this day, even though he's in the Hall of Fame, is so underrated. But
he is. People don't talk about him enough. And you talked about, just greatness.
Yes. I mean, how can you not mention James Worthy, who a lot of people forget because of Michael Jordan's heroics? James Worthy was the most outstanding player in that game in '82.
Yep. And you talked about it. And this is why, though, when I'm covering that team, and again, having Pat at the helm, I just think of all that history and legacy that he brings with him. And I hope those players understand what they're getting with a guy like Pat. And I'll be honest with you, Georgetown has been great to cover, but of course, unfortunately, that whole sexual harassment, sexual assault case that hit the Georgetown Hoyas basketball team was rough. And I think it kind of changed things a bit. But I really think it showed Pat's leadership.
Yeah.
Because he is a player's coach. And I think Pat's also doing a great job at starting to make sure that he recruits local talent, because that had been for a long time a criticism of Georgetown basketball, and it's something here in the DMV. So in the DMV area, we breed ball players, we like to say, be that football and basketball. So University of Maryland coach Mike Loxley just came out and said he's making recruiting local talent a priority of his. Mark Turgeon has said that with the Maryland Terrapins basketball team. And now I think having Pat say that and be that person, I think it's just promising. And, everybody's listening to him for that. But look, Georgetown Hoyas have a solid, good basketball team. Now, are they the old Big East as of late? No. All right. We're not going back to those good Big East games. But it's still fun to watch them and catch them down at Capital One Arena. Mac McClung, if you don't know that name, the Georgetown Hoyas, look him up. So again, young, bright, talented team. I think Pat has his work cut out for him. But it's definitely a fun time.
I mean, Capital One Arena will not be the Capitol Center when Patrick Ewing played there, and oh my gosh, I'm starting to get memories now. The battle he had with one Ralph Sampson, that was a nationally televised game. It was only supposed to be on cable, but then all of a sudden, two of the major stations, and like I said, I grew up in Chicago, two of the major stations wound up carrying that game on local television, and we're all sitting in the living room watching this, and we're going, wow. And you hear that place and how loud it is. I'm waiting for the day that Capital One Arena gets that loud when Patrick Ewing leads Georgetown back to prominence.
Me and you both. And look, those are the days we hope for.
Yes.
The Wizards play at Capital One Arena. Wizards games are not loud. All right, folks. I'm just going to be honest with you. Unless a really good team is in town. And
right.
I think that's what we've wanted. Look, when I grew up as a kid, when it was back then NCI Center, then it was Verizon Center, now it's Capital One Arena. But back when I was growing up there, I mean, we had some glory days there. I mean, you talk about the Mike Sweetneys of the world, and I mean, just so many great and talented players that came through that Georgetown era. Roy Hilbert, like just so many big names I can go back to that I remember growing up watching. And then remember when they were playing in McDonough Arena. So I'm talking about Capital One Arena, not for Georgetown, for Wizards games. But when they were playing those games in McDonough Arena, right, before they even got to Capital One Arena, and it was that tight, hot gym, that sweaty gym, standing room only. Oh, my gosh. Some of the best basketball games that I've seen. And that's, where, of course, where the women play now. And they used to always do at least one game there. They don't really do that now. But just good memories. But, I mean, Georgetown has a legacy of basketball, right? It's the Allen Iverson days, right? I mean, just the Kembe Mutombo days, like just
Rejection Row, Dikembe Mutombo, Alonzo Mourning.
We can talk. So much greatness has come from that. You talked about Alonzo Mourning. Remember his son, Trey Mourning?
Yes.
Actually plays for the Georgetown Boys. So, I mean, just great basketball. But I think Pat is going to try to get them to that level. And because of his background, I think the donors are giving him more time to do that, because it takes time to rebuild a basketball program, folks. It does not happen overnight. And I think he's going to try to do that, because if Georgetown can get to any near type of level they used to be, I'm telling you, fun times in DC. I'll tell you real quick. The funnest Georgetown games, and we haven't had them scheduled, but when Georgetown played Maryland, and it's kind of a rivalry they're trying to start, that was probably the last time I've heard a Capital One Arena Georgetown game that loud. I don't remember that game. Georgetown always played the Maryland Terrapins.
Yes.
So much fun, that crosstown rivalry. That's the last time I heard a game like just with that much intensity.
I mean, the last time I saw Georgetown get to the Final Four, which of course was 2007, and it was March of 2007. And my dad was watching the game with me, and we both remember watching Patrick Ewing, me growing up and him watching it with me. When they beat, of all teams, North Carolina in the East Regional Final to get to the Final Four, both of us were crying, because we remember that championship game in New Orleans, and then they beat North Carolina in overtime to get to the Final Four, and we look at each other and we're going, it's the glory days again. Georgetown is in the Final Four, and we couldn't believe it. And I can't
overtime
wait.
Victory.
Yes, it was an overtime victory in East Rutherford, New Jersey, for them to get to the Final Four. I could sit and talk with Kelsey all day about Georgetown basketball, because, like I said, that was my first favorite team growing up. I mentioned, of course, Patrick Ewing started me on that road. Rejection Row with Alonzo Mourning and Dikembe Mutombo. Of course, John Thompson was the leader of that team for many, many years as the head coach. Then John Thompson Jr. And now it circles all the way back around to Patrick Ewing being the head coach. And I'm waiting for the old school Big East to come back again. You mentioned Georgetown and Villanova.
The Big East used to be the thing, right, in college basketball.
Wasn't it?
And of course now ACC pretty much owns college basketball.
Yep.
And the Big Ten, they make a run for it here and there, but the Big East, look, there are no times like the Big East times in college basketball. I mean, it's real gritty, nitty-gritty, tough, hardcore basketball.
I
and
told,
that's what we want back.
I told my wife one of the things I would love to do is to see all of my favorite arenas growing up, all of my favorite stadiums growing up. And unfortunately, I can't see the Capitol Center. That's gone. But I did get a chance one year to see the Spectrum in Philadelphia. I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Because Villanova would host all their Big East games at the Spectrum. When it was Syracuse, when it was Georgetown, when it was Seton Hall, especially Georgetown. If Georgetown came to Philadelphia to play Villanova, they weren't playing at the small arena. They were playing at the Spectrum. They wanted a crowd for that game, and you put 18,000 people in there, and they're going to be on their feet for the entire game.
I mean, and that's what it's about. And like you said, I mean, again, I'm not saying the East basketball games are not fun. And I will say, Georgetown still gets a pretty good crowd when they face off against Syracuse. But it's not the same. It's not the same. And again, being from here and growing up and going to those games, I know what it was like. And so Pat needs time to get to that level.
Yes.
But I think, he's kind of getting there. And if we're talking about college basketball, I don't think they're getting enough notoriety. But the crosstown Maryland and what they've done this season, Mark Turgeon. And again, Maryland's that quiet but really good basketball team. Some are putting Maryland already in their Final Four. And let's also remember, it's been a while since Maryland has hoisted that national championship trophy. Because we go across the border and cross state, UVA had just won it, right? So we're hoping some of that trickles here down the Beltway. And probably most likely we'll go to Maryland, of course, before Georgetown this season. But it's a good time for college basketball here in the DMV.
It is a very good time. And it's also a very good time for y'all to check out Listen In with KNN wherever you listen to podcasts. I was a guest on there. I am a faithful listener. She puts out some great programs, and I want y'all to check it out. This is Kelsey Nicole Nelson joining me here on the program. I thank you so much for coming on, and I'm not going to wait 2 years to have you on. I got to have you back on soon, especially to talk some college hoops as we travel down the road to Atlanta.
Oh, I'd love it. Thanks so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. Folks, we got more after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Welcome back, folks. Let's talk some baseball, shall we? Now, I told people last year that the White Sox were going to be a problem. And, of course, I got laughed at being a Southsider and being a White Sox fan. But I stayed true to those words, and people started to see it before the injuries happened. This year, there's going to be a lot more of that, as long as they stay healthy. To help me break this down is the voice of the Winston-Salem Dash, a member of the White Sox farm system. This is Mr. Connor Klingen, and he joins me right now. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty well, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
There is a buzz on the South Side for the first time in a while.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I was lucky enough last season to see some of these guys come through Winston-Salem. Last year, we started the year with Luis Robert and Nick Madrigal. And you saw it this offseason. The White Sox giving Luis Robert an $88 million contract if all of the options are picked up before he even plays a major league game. So that tells you about the kind of talent he has, and I fully expect him to be the starting center fielder on opening day. And along with that, you have the continued development of guys like Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada, Lucas Giolito, and Eloy Jimenez, among others. So it's extremely exciting for the White Sox. And I think that they do have a legitimate chance to compete in the AL Central this year. They're going to need things to break their way. They're going to need the Minnesota Twins not to be a record-setting type team again this season. But I do think they have a legitimate chance, and I think White Sox fans expect at the very least for this team to be around 500, if not competing for a playoff spot.
I wouldn't be surprised if these are some wild card contenders this year just on the talent alone. but there is a wild card within the wild card competition, and that's the pitching staff. This is a staff that has grown. Now you add Dallas Keuchel, a former Cy Young winner, to the equation. You have Lucas Giolito, who was an all-star, and then you have Michael Kopech looming on the horizon. So this pitching staff is only going to get stronger. It's like you said, my friend. The Minnesota Twins can't be a record-setting home run hitting ball club, and things that have to break the White Sox way. But considering who they have right now and who they picked up in the offseason in terms of Yasmani Grandal and re-signing Jose Abreu, this White Sox team is creating more than a buzz. There is some excitement on the South Side.
Oh, definitely. And I think, like you said, with the pitching staff, Michael Kopech is someone I really see as a key to the season. Now, there's a good chance that he'll start in AAA coming off of that Tommy John surgery, and he could be dealing with an innings limit this season. But if he is who the White Sox believe he is and who everyone saw that he was in those first few starts that he was able to make in 2018, that could really be a game changer for this team. And I really like the addition of Dallas Keuchel as well, getting a veteran presence in that rotation, because as good as Giolito was last year, we all saw him in 2018 and 2017. He's had his struggles. He's still growing as a major league pitcher. You also have Dylan Cease. These guys all need to learn. They all need to grow, and getting someone like Keuchel is huge for that, as well as Theo Gonzalez, who finally will pitch in a White Sox uniform after they twice traded him away from their minor league system.
Who do you suspect will be the closer for this team? Because since 2008, and more importantly since 2012, when the White Sox were in front in the Central Division for much of the season, and then they completely fell off because their bullpen was absolutely spent, who is the closer for this White Sox club to really solidify that bullpen?
Well, I think it'll still be Alex Colomé. He had a pretty strong season last year. You know, the ERA under 3, had over 30 saves in 2019. So he had a strong season last year, and there was a lot of buzz that the White Sox were going to get rid of him at the deadline, try to get some more prospects back. But I think the fact that they held on to Colomé last season, it kind of says that Rick Hahn and company knew that 2020 was the year they could contend, and they wanted to hold on to an above-average closer in Major League Baseball, and maybe someone who can even take another step to being one of the elite closers. You can see that sometimes with bullpen guys. You know, he's now entering his age 31 season, but he really could only be getting better at this point. But you go back to 2016, was really a dominant force for the Tampa Bay Rays and their bullpen. But I really liked as well on the bullpen side the move that they made yesterday, giving an extension to Aaron Bummer. He's a great piece as a setup man in their bullpen. One guy who, you know, he's not on that many radars right now, but last season saw him in Winston-Salem, and I expect him to perhaps this season, if not in 2021, become a part of the White Sox bullpen. A right-hander by the name of Cody Hoyer. He is an electric right-handed arm out of the bullpen, and I'd expect him to start the year in at least Birmingham, perhaps Charlotte, and I think he has the potential to maybe become a contributor for this bullpen late in the season.
Talking with Winston-Salem Dash voice Connor Klingon as we break down the White Sox entering the 2020 season and the excitement therein. Who gets the ball on opening day? I would suspect it would be Dallas Keuchel.
You know, there's been rumors about it going either way. It could be Lucas Giolito or Dallas Keuchel. Those are the two prime candidates. That'll be a decision that Rick Renteria and Don Cooper will have to make. Dallas Keuchel does have that experience of being a Cy Young winner, of winning a World Series, so he's been on big stages before. So that's going to be a playoff-like atmosphere at Guaranteed Rate Field, March 26th, when the White Sox open up against the Royals. So perhaps because of that, you may feel more comfortable giving the ball to someone like Keuchel, but Giolito, I think he showed last year that he has the potential to be an ace for a rotation, and I think he'd be ready to step up to the challenge to be the opening day starter.
Again, talking with Connor Klingon of the Winston-Salem Dash, the voice of the Winston-Salem Dash. We talked about this front end. Let's look at the front end of the White Sox rotation. You got Keiko, you got Giolito. Kopech may be coming back. Who fills out this rotation for the White Sox?
Well, we've also got Dylan Cease, and we saw he had his ups and downs last season as a rookie. But he has shown so much potential all the way back from when he was a part of the Cubs system, obviously a part of the Jose Quintana trade. I think he's someone who's going to show a lot of growth this season. He's got that great fastball, got a really good breaking ball as well. A key for him in his development at the minor league level was using that changeup a little bit more, and I think that's something we'll continue to see from him. Reynaldo Lopez as well, kind of a rough season for him last year after he had a pretty strong 2018. And there are people that have suggested on the outside that he's someone who could be moved to the bullpen instead of being part of the rotation. And I think he's still shown flashes of brilliance at times. Last year he had that start where he had 14 strikeouts. So at least to start the season, he's going to be a part of the rotation, and it'll be interesting to see how he works under the pressure, knowing that Michael Kopech is sitting there in the minor leagues and that he's trying to hold on to a spot in that rotation. And Gio Gonzalez as well. I think right now he's probably your fifth starter, sort of on the back end of his career, but he's someone who's going to be consistent. He may not put up outstanding numbers, but he's someone that's going to give you an ERA somewhere around the 4-ish range, 4 to 4.5 range. And if that's your number 5 starter for a major league team, especially with the way teams are playing offensively lately in Major League Baseball, that's great. And Gonzalez is a really experienced guy. So the rotation, I would say, is not as much of a sure thing as the lineup is. We saw what the lineup was able to do last year, and that was without guys like Luis Robert, Yasmani Grandal, Edwin Encarnacion, and Nick Madrigal. But the rotation is not as much of a sure thing for this season. So it'll be interesting to see how guys like Lopez and Cease try to take those steps forward.
Speaking of the offense, let's take a look at this offense and the way it has come together. The young guys, you know what they're going to do for you. How big is the signing, and how will the signing of one Edwin Encarnacion benefit the White Sox?
Well, I would say it's almost automatic that that's going to add 35-plus home runs to the White Sox offense this year. I mean, he just has done it time and time again. He's 37 years old now, but he's most likely going to be the regular designated hitter in the lineup. A little bit of a liability in the field at this point in his career, but he's going to be a really consistent presence in this lineup. And I think what's also exciting about that is when you have someone like Abreu, it remains to be seen where Rick Renteria will place all of these guys in the order, and there'll be changes throughout the season. But just imagine a pitcher facing Jose Abreu, and perhaps coming up next, you have Eloy Jimenez. You want to pitch around him? Well, actually, up next, you've got Edwin Encarnacion. So it's the most dangerous White Sox lineup that I can remember in some time. So that's a really exciting thing, and I'm sure Abreu, Jimenez, Moncada, they're all excited to have that additional protection in the lineup.
It's a big, big piece for the White Sox signing veteran slugger Edwin Encarnacion. Let's look at Mount Eloy, as he's often called. Eloy Jimenez, a tremendous season last year. How much better can this kid get?
Well, I think where he needs to take the step forward is in the field. I think he's working really hard this offseason on playing a more serviceable left field. That's probably his main focus. But as you said, with the bat last season, he had his ups and downs early, but late in the year, he came on extremely strong and finishing his rookie season with 31 home runs. I really wouldn't be surprised if he pushes the 40 number this season on home runs. He's that kind of talent. But I think for him, the main focus is getting better defensively, and that's a big key for the White Sox. They struggled defensively last year, and at the end of the day, the teams that make the playoffs, the teams that win the World Series, a lot of that is done with pitching and defense. So I think that's what his main focus is in the offseason, and I think the Dolphins will only continue to get better as well.
Man, but looking at that offense, Jimenez and Abreu and Encarnacion have a chance to all have 40 home run seasons. And the last time the White Sox had two players in the lineup that had 40-plus home runs, 2006, Jermaine Dye and Jim Thome. But as my partner just said, it's the defense where the White Sox really need to improve. We'll keep you updated on all of our previews and take you throughout the course of the season. My White Sox correspondent, Connor Klingon, the voice of the Winston-Salem Dash, joining me to talk some White Sox baseball. Thank you very much for the time, my friend. I look forward to conversing with you throughout the course of the season.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you having me on.
Man, look, we got some more stuff for you. More baseball as Errol Marks will join me after the break.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Okay, folks. I am going to lay a few warnings down before I bring my next guest in. And the warnings are as follows. There's going to be a lot of truth-telling. Wait, I do that every morning I'm on the air, so scratch that warning. There's going to be a lot of real truth-telling about certain players. There's going to be an actual great conversation happening. And doggone it, there's going to be some fun had, especially with the subject that I'm going to bring my guest in for. So I will tell y'all right now, you better strap in, because if you don't like the way it's going to be told, you're going to have to get over it. Courtney Harden from The Real Deal with Courtney Harden now joins me. It's been too damn long, man.
Thank you for having me, man. Thanks for that intro. Yes, it has been too long, so I know we're going to be telling some truth, as you said.
First time I talked to him was on his show 2 years ago. And here's how we got off the rails the very first time. Courtney posed a question to me, and the question he posed to me was, since the Rockets had acquired Chris Paul, do they stand a chance? No. Actually, his question was, and I quote, do you trust the Rockets to beat the Warriors? And I respectfully and eloquently said, hell no, I don't.
I remember that. Yes, I do.
And since then, folks, we've been off to the races.
Yes.
Courtney Harden is back. You can catch him every Saturday on The Real Deal with Courtney Harden, a fabulous show. I recommend it. Let's just dive into it. Now,
all right, let's do it.
You're an NBA fan like I, but you also know what real NBA is. And we had it well before some of these guys showed up. So here's where I lead. Why can't Joel Embiid stay healthy and stay on the floor?
It's funny because that's actually a good question. Like every single year,
This
guy, you're just waiting for him. Like I said, we don't wish injury on anybody.
No,
but
we don't.
There's certain players, certain guys, in the in sports that are just too brittle, too brittle. If it's physically, if it's mentally. This guy just can't stay healthy. It's unbelievable. It was just a matter of time before something went wrong, and then things are not going right for that team, and it happened. And now they're saying a week, but we know with Joel Embiid it's going to be longer than 1 week.
It's going to be a month. Come on, let's just be real about it. It's going to be until April. This is Joel Embiid we're talking about. This is the fellow that everybody praised coming out of Kansas, that he was supposed to be the next best big man, which I haven't seen until after Shaquille O'Neal retired. I haven't seen him yet.
Yep, agreed. I agree with that. I agree with that assessment because, as talented as he is, he's very inconsistent, or he's not consistent enough to stay healthy. How about that?
Let's stay with Philadelphia. Let's stay with the 76ers. My first question, why can't Embiid stay healthy? My other question, and I think you know what's coming, why can't Ben Simmons hit a jump shot?
and with Ben Simmons, it's not the lack of hitting a jump shot, it's the lack of shooting a jump shot. How about that? Like, this guy.
Why can't he? I'm going to say it as plain as my wife would say it. Why can't he grow a set and take a few jump shots from outside of 10 feet?
Right. Another guy. I was gonna say another guy that gets in the paint. He can get in the paint whenever he wants. He's talented enough.
Yep.
Got a lot of dribble game. He can get in the paint, but he likes to kick it out. And he doesn't even go for layups hardly anymore. So, what's the harm of attempting a jumper outside of 10 feet? You're either gonna make it or you're gonna miss it. It's funny because I was talking to a coworker of mine, a lot of Sixer fans here in Philly.
Of course.
And we were just, we were talking about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So we were talking about Ben Simmons, and we're like, okay, is it going to hurt you to attempt jump shots? Okay, if you miss them, that's fine. But it's not about, it's not about you missing them. It's about you attempting them. So if you attempt them, nobody's going to hurt you if you're shooting 20% from the field. If you're shooting, at least you're attempting to shoot. But that's the answer. Why not? Or the question: why not attempt a jump shot?
Have I not said that very same thing as long as you and I have been on each other's shows? I've said the two players that are going to ruin it for Philadelphia are Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We're on the cusp of March, and we're into March. I beg your pardon. Guess what? You're seeing the pattern again. Trust the process is the saying in Philadelphia. They have one good run in the playoffs. Of course, that's 2018 when they beat Miami in 5 games because Miami didn't challenge Ben Simmons outside of 10 feet. They get to Boston, and Boston said, oh, we'll handle this. Terry Rozier scared Ben Simmons into a point where Ben Simmons didn't want to take a jump shot. You said it best. Ben Simmons didn't want to take a jump shot. I see a big problem with that. Let's see. Let's mix in a little old school here before we really go off the rails. Kevin Johnson penetrated a lot. He wasn't afraid to take a jump shot. B.J. Armstrong penetrated a lot. He wasn't afraid to take a jump shot. A couple of Philadelphia 76ers you'll be familiar with. I believe their names are Maurice Cheeks and Andrew Toney.
Yep. They weren't afraid.
Nope.
They were not afraid. And you had guys that didn't have jump shots, like you said, Kevin Johnson. We go to Derrick Rose. His jump shot was broken. Broken coming out of college. And he wasn't afraid. He developed an actual decent enough jump shot. Wasn't consistent. He wasn't a Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, but the man at least attempted a jump shot. And you even had guys like Joakim Noah, who has one of the ugliest shots. He attempted jump shots.
But the thing is, they had the nerve to try them. Sir Charles, who graced Philadelphia for 8 seasons, had the nerve to take a few outside jump shots. And he made more than he attempted. He made more than he missed. Okay? But he had the nerve to take them. You mentioned Joakim Noah. You mentioned Derrick Rose. How about Draymond Green? He's not afraid to take a jump shot or two.
Nope.
How about
Andre Iguodala. Yes.
Oh, man. Andre Iguodala is one of the most underrated players that I've ever watched. Underrated.
Yes, he is.
One of the most underrated players I've ever watched. You know what? Let's really go there. Scottie Pippen developed a jump shot. He became a Hall of Famer for his defense. Yep. And, of course, when you're riding the coattails, and Scottie will happily admit this, of the greatest to ever do it, and Michael Jeffrey Jordan, you learn a few things. Like, I don't know, how to hit a jump shot, how to penetrate, how to read a defense. Come on, Ben Simmons. You're in the NBA now. You're 4 years deep. You haven't taken a key jump shot yet.
Yeah, and I don't see it ever happening either.
I don't either.
Unless they go, it's coaching. It's going to be coaching. You know, maybe he needs a new coach to push him. I think Brett Brown coddles Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons too much. So Ben Simmons
if they lose in the playoffs, Brett Brown's out of there. He's gone.
Yes, they got to get to the conference finals. They have to, at the least, get to the conference finals. I don't see that happen.
At the least, they got 4 players on that team with plus $100 million contracts. They need to win the darn thing. They need to at least make an appearance in the, listen to my terminology, World Championship Series before they even put a contract on the table for Brett Brown. Hey, Billy Cunningham won a couple of conference titles. Okay?
Yes, he did.
So miss me with Philadelphia being snake bitten. I've seen Billy Cunningham beat Boston in Boston, beat the blank out of Milwaukee to win conference titles. Oh, by the way, he did that in back-to-back years. And in '83, he won the world championship. Want to talk about a person who developed a jump shot over the years? My first favorite player, Julius Erving.
Yep. Yes, he did.
Matter of fact, one of the legendary Hall of Famers. Like I said, he was my first favorite player before some guy named Michael Jordan showed up. Ben Simmons, take a lesson. It was a jump shot that sealed the '83 World Championship in Game 4 on the road in the Forum.
Yep. So, yes, and you talk about Sixers. How about Allen Iverson?
Oh my gosh, yes. Allen Iverson.
You know?
Allen Iverson. You know, at first I didn't like him when he came into the league, but he played at one of my favorite colleges, which is Georgetown. Loved the Georgetown Hoyas. And then I fell in love with watching AI. And then AI in his Hall of Fame speech paid homage to the greatest of all time in Michael Jordan. So I'm like, hey, I can't be mad at AI anymore.
You know, it's funny. I mean, maybe that's why we connect with a lot, because I wasn't a big fan of AI in the beginning either. I was not I knew he was great. Knew he was going to be great. Going to be good. I didn't know maybe the brain of basketball that he brought, but I mean, this man, I had a fond respect for him later in his career.
Right.
When they got to the finals, when they actually got to the finals with that team.
Yes.
With that team, and they did beat the Lakers in Game 1, but Shaq and Kobe was just too much for them. And
Shaq and Kobe got mad.
Yes,
Shaq
they did.
and Kobe got mad. You beat us in the Staples Center in the World Championship Series? Not anymore, you won't.
Yes.
And they never saw the and Philadelphia, bless their hearts, never saw the Staples Center again. Because it ended in Philadelphia.
Yep. So that sort of, he played with so much heart and, you know, so much drive, determination. I mean, this guy just never quit. I said, I got to respect this. I mean, there's being an NBA fan, you have to respect it. So, and then, like I said, he's an all-time great himself. So, yeah,
he is.
Big ups to AI.
And speaking of guards that can make a jump shot, I don't know, Isaiah Thomas.
Yep.
Joe Dumars.
Yeah. All these all-time great guards that can shoot, that develop a jump shot.
You know what? You said the key thing, develop a jump shot. They had the nerve to identify their weakness and take care of it, which leads me to Zion Williamson. I got in trouble because I said I was not impressed with Zion Williamson. And these 21st century NBA fans that I've talked about on my show often pushed back hard against my critical review of Zion Williamson. I've had people ask me before he left Duke, which I think he should not have, because you're going to see problems with Zion for at least 2 years. The first problem is going to be conditioning.
Yeah. I agree with his conditioning. Definitely. I definitely agree with his condition. I think his body type, the way it is, I mean, he's a strong individual to be that young. He's 19, I think. He's 19.
Yes, he is 19.
And, you know, I think what, like I said, with the new school fans, 21st century fans of the NBA, they kind of crown players too soon. Like Zion's played
13 games. He's played 13.
So less than 15 games.
He's played 13 games, which took him
and now,
a full year, to almost a full year.
Yeah.
To play 13 professional games because he had to sit out for an extended period of time with an injury. 13 games, and they're saying he's going to pass Wilt Chamberlain in terms of points during his rookie year. Newsflash, he's only going to have half of his numbers.
Yeah, right, because he hasn't played enough games as it is. So let's put that in perspective first. Right. Now, I like him. I do like Zion. I like what I've seen so far, but it's still a small sample size. Let's put it in perspective. Let's see. They said it's 13 games in the NBA.
Yep.
Now, yes, he's been pretty impressive. He's been, he's developing, and he's still developing his game. So, but let's pump the brakes on him as the greatest show right now. In an NBA.
Thank you.
He's box office. Yes. Okay. But that he sells tickets. Yes. Okay. His ratings. Great for the NBA. They need the ratings jump.
They need it badly, and I'll touch on that in a couple of minutes.
Right. So it's good for the league. It's good for the league.
It is good. It is good for the league. I never said he wasn't a fabulous athlete. Okay.
Right.
This is, and you know where I'm going with this statement because you've heard me say it before. I said it on your program. I will never say Zion Williamson is not a fabulous athlete. I'm saying right now he ain't good as a basketball player. Big difference.
Right. Yes, I can agree with that. I totally can agree with that because he hasn't developed anything yet. Like you said, he's got to get in better shape. That takes time. Like I said, his body type, he's a big guy, strong guy, so he's moving players. I mean, when you can move Dwight Howard, who's 7 foot and big, and you can move him out of the way, you got some strength. So he's got that 285 body, but that body
he's
type
too heavy. In my opinion, he's too heavy. At 6'7", I understand he's built. I get that, okay? But I've watched some high school footage of Zion, and he's no more out of shape now than he was when he was playing high school a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Right. And you already see the injuries now, too. It's unfortunate for such a young player. He's had some major injuries the first year in Duke, the 1 year in Duke, and now even with the Pelicans right now, you see the injuries, but that goes with him being out of shape, being too heavy, and it's breaking out his body. And we've seen players who was heavy don't last in the league too long.
No.
Oliver Miller type
Oliver
guys,
Miller, exactly.
Yeah, Greg Oden. And Eddie Curry, unfortunately, he had heart conditions. But Eddie Curry, these guys didn't last in the league. Yeah, Zion's more talented than they are, but it goes to show he's got to get. You can tell when he's running up and down the floor.
He's tired.
He gets tired very quickly because he wastes. See, the energy that he's building, so much energy and wastes so much energy. He wants to dunk everything and but like you said, in time, we'll see if he develops.
In due time, I believe he will develop. In due time, I believe he will develop. In due time, if, and I know I'm very critical, but I've got to say it, and I'm going to continue to say it until I see different. If he decides to get it in his mind, like Shaquille O'Neal did after Phil Jackson arrived in Los Angeles, that he wants to be one of the best players on the planet, I don't see it happening.
I 100% agree. I totally agree with that.
And it's between the ears, man. It's not on the floor. It's between the ears. Which brings me to the subject of LeBron James. Yep, here we go. Yeah, you know where I'm going. It brings me to players like LeBron James, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. There's a few hundred more I can name, but let's just go with those three. They are entrenched in the league. The problem is they're not good basketball players, even at their advanced age and their advanced status in the league. And I had someone question me and say, how can you say that about those three? Have you seen them play? Have you seen James Harden and Russell Westbrook fight over who's going to take the shot? Have you seen LeBron James walk across midcourt, take 3 extra steps after terminating his dribble, and then bounce the ball again?
Yes, we've seen that with LeBron a lot, and let's go with Harden and Westbrook. I'm glad you brought them up. I knew you were going there with those two guys. Talented guys, as we said. We know that. They definitely. But I agree, they're pure basketball players. They're not.
No.
So
they're
they're not.
You would think the way they're touting Harden and Westbrook, you would think they were Cheeks and Tony, or Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. They're not.
Yep.
They're really not.
No, they're not. They're not. They selfish players. They're guys that you can't win with that formula. We've seen this. You talked at the top of the show. You said it and Chris Paul's even he's not selfish. He's actually more unselfish than Westbrook. But these guys are gonna fight over the ball.
Yep.
They're gonna, what's gonna happen when they get in the playoffs? That small ball, they're gonna miss shots. Westbrook's not a great shooter as it is. He's another guy though that actually will take the shot. So that unlike Ben Simmons, Westbrook will take shots. Bad shots or not, he takes shots. But he's not a good shooter.
No.
So he's going to go in there and, jack up 30, 40 shots. So that's going to happen with Harden. Harden likes to shoot the ball. He loves to dribble, back step, shoot that three. It doesn't work.
You mean that travel back step?
Yes, the travel back step.
That travel back step that Russell Westbrook's now developing?
Yeah, bad habits. Bad habits with those guys. They're learning off of each other, bouncing off each other.
You mean that flop that James Harden and LeBron James loves to do? And people say, well, you're criticizing LeBron because he's LeBron. You're damn right I am, because I've seen holes in his game for 17 years that no one has told him how to fix. The best of LeBron we saw was in Miami when Eric Spoelstra got in his head and got in his rear end about the player he should be. The problem is LeBron didn't like taking A, criticism, B, instruction, and C, what's the word you and I love to use? Structure.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Because LeBron does what LeBron wants to do, and he's been doing it for 17 years. And he had a structure with Riley and Spoelstra. He had a structure with Riley and Spoelstra.
Do you know how great, and I will put this question out there. It'll be one of the few times I do, but let's just play devil's advocate here. Do you know how great LeBron James could have been had he taken the instruction and the structure and the criticism and used it as fuel to make his game better? You can't play bully ball for 17 years and think you're going to do what you were supposed to do in Miami and couldn't do it because you got mossed by Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah, yes, he did. He did, and that's funny because they actually had the better talent, I should say,
They
that
did.
year.
They did.
Yeah, because it was Dirk and it was Dirk and it was Jason Terry. It was a Jason Kidd that was in the back end of his career, and Tyson Chandler, and they
Miami
had
should have
these guys.
swept that. Miami should have swept that series.
Yeah,
but Dallas
Dirk was on a mission.
But the Mavericks were more organized.
Yep, and they had an MVP, Dirk Nowitzki, MVP player, who was like, I'm not losing this series. I'm not losing again to Miami. I'm going to take this series and beat LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, the big three, and he did it.
You know something? Cole Johnson, a mutual friend and a very fabulous talk show host that I've had on this program a lot, said the best thing, and it capsulizes what I thought of LeBron for 17 years. There are 4 games in LeBron's playoff career that permanently eliminated him from greatest of all time conversation. And those 4 games are games 3 through 6 in the 2011 World Championship Series. Why, you ask? Because in each one of those games, in the fourth quarter of those 4 games, he scored a total of 8 points.
Wow. That's a daunting stat.
2 points in game 3 in the fourth quarter, 2 points in game 4 in the fourth quarter, 2 points in game 5 in the fourth quarter, with the game hanging in the balance, mind you. With the game hanging in the balance. And then game 6 on his home floor. On his home floor. He scores 2 points in the final 12 minutes. 2.
That 2 points. Wow.
2.
That's in the next greatest player, supposedly. You can't do that. You just don't do that. Do you
think Stephen Curry would have scored only 2 points in the fourth quarter in 4 consecutive games? No. Do you think Klay Thompson would have let that happen? No. Do you think Kawhi Leonard would have let that happen? No. And he's proven it twice, 2014 and 2019. Do you think Kevin Durant would have let that happen? Not on
Definitely
your
not.
life.
Durant's going to try to get 22 points in a quarter if he can,
I'll give you a 5th game that has eliminated LeBron, in my opinion. Actually, a 5th and a 6th that eliminated LeBron from greatest of all time conversation. And I'm going to talk about this later in the week. Game 3 of the 2017 World Championship Series and Game 3 in the 2018 World Championship Series. Why, you ask? You had, if you're LeBron and you're supposedly the greatest player in the world, which he ain't, and there's enough proof out there if folks actually put their headphones on and do their research, and of course my wife's laughing at me right now as she helps produce this segment about putting headphones on. If people would actually, but in all seriousness, if people would actually sit down and do some research, you'd eliminate LeBron from the greatest of all time conversation for the 6 games that I mentioned. Why am I mentioning 2017 and 2018? In 2017, Durant gets a rebound off of a 3-point miss, trots up the floor, LeBron's backpedaling, and LeBron made the most critical mistake, and he allowed Durant space. So what does Durant do? A 31-footer right in his eyes.
Yep. I remember that so vividly because Durant, now you're talking about a guy who is arguably one of the greatest scorers of all time. I wouldn't say
absolutely
arguably, one of the greatest scorers of all time.
Absolutely.
And as you said, LeBron's backpedaling and not getting on the ball against a guy that can score from anywhere on the floor.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Inside, outside, 3-point land.
Yes, off the dribble, off the bounce, what post up, all that. LeBron, KD is that guy.
KD is that man.
Yes.
All right.
And you give him that much room, he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to pull up and hit this in your face. As I've been hitting shots all game, all series. So, okay, give me my finals MVP.
Right now. And 2018, why did LeBron James switch off of Durant and let Rodney Hood guard Kevin Durant?
Ooh.
The best player in the world does not shirk a defensive assignment.
No, nothing like that. Nothing. We've seen it with Michael Jordan. He took the challenges and thrived on the challenges. That's why he's the GOAT.
Michael took them all. Scotty took them all. Shaquille O'Neal took them all. Kobe Bryant took them all. Julius Erving, Bobby Jones, Magic Johnson. Do I need to go on this list? They took them all. Win or lose, put it on my back. Win or lose, put it on my back. Oh, I forgot. Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Charles Barkley. Took all the challenges.
All-time greats. All-time greats.
They took all the challenges. You don't shirk a defensive assignment when you're supposed to be the best player on the floor. You're not supposed to do that.
Nope. Take the challenge, and no matter what happens, as you said, criticism. LeBron doesn't take criticism too well.
He does not. He does not.
Right. And I like LeBron. And you know this, and known me for a couple of years. I like LeBron a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a real, like you said, we're realists. We know where is the flaws in the game, and that right there, those three key points you pointed out is where, that keeps him from the GOAT conversation.
And I see the same flaws developing in some of the players we've mentioned in recent times. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Zion Williamson. I shouldn't pin it on a rookie, but after watching him, I know what I like and I know what I've seen. Folks, the clip that I'm going to play for you, let's go back to June of 2018, June 6th, as a matter of fact, 2018. We're in Cleveland, Ohio. It's 103-100. It's Game 3 of the World Championship Series. Golden State leads 2-0 at the Quicken Loans Arena. There's less than a minute to go. LeBron James has just switched off of Kevin Durant and switched on to Stephen Curry. Why he did that, I don't know. So you leave Rodney Hood, of all people, to defend Kevin Durant, who's waved Stephen Curry away. He's waved Andre Iguodala away. He's waved Draymond Green away. ABC had the call, and then this happened.
Kevin Durant way outside, delivers! Kevin Durant from downtown. It's a 6-point game. That's the same spot where he had it in Game 3.
Mike Breen on the call. And, Your Honor, I rest my case.
That's all you need. That's all you need. KD. That's it.
There are some reasons of why people think the ratings are down in the NBA this year, and they're going to be down for a while. But I have a theory, and it goes like this. In 3 words, no Splash Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
No Splash Brothers.
No Splash Brothers. No Splash Brothers. No Kevin Durant.
Exactly. I mean, you got Kawhi, and Kawhi's doing great, but you don't have, how was it described to me? You don't have that team that you love or hate there. You don't have it.
Yep.
It's
That's
like
true.
you want to see what they do every night, but you don't want to see what they do every night. Right now, that team that people want to watch every night, except you and I, are the Los Angeles Lakers. And my question is why?
I guess the appeal of still LeBron, AD, LA, but I personally don't think they're the best team. They're not the best team in LA, just so right now. So I mean, I gotta go with the Clippers until Kawhi gets beat. I gotta go with the Clippers. It's as simple as that. Kawhi is, he's the Finals MVP.
Mm-hmm. Twice
from
over.
Last year. Twice over. Yep. Can't forget that. 2 times over. Maybe about to be 3 times. We'll wait and see what happens in the playoffs. Hopefully they stay healthy. That's the Clippers' only problem.
I really hope they stay healthy because I don't want to see LeBron get to the World Championship Series. He hasn't earned it. He has not. He has not earned it. And while we were talking earlier in this conversation, I'm with Courtney Harden from The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. While we were talking about players that can't stay on the floor, as ultra talented as they are, let me throw a stat out there that people want to ignore about an all-star. Anthony Davis has yet to play a full season in the NBA. And you can cross this season off the list, too, because he's missed 8 games this year. And none of them due to rest.
Right. Yeah, he's always banged up somehow, some way. He's always another player that's just, I don't know, is brittle. And this is a talented guy. This is a real talented guy.
Very much so. Very much so.
He's just as another guy that's never been out of the second round of the playoffs. And, it's because, the health reasons for him.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see those guys at full strength, just like you do.
Yes,
you're a fan of the league, so you want to see the best versus the best. So if we get the LA series, as everybody predicts, which I think there's a couple teams. I'm with you. I think there's a couple teams like Denver, who's going to be a tough out.
Like
in
Utah.
The playoffs. Utah's another one. Yep. Those four.
And of course, now we just roll right into our playoff discussion, folks, since it's right down the way.
Yeah,
It's like you got Utah that's going to be a tough out. Denver's going to be a tough out. Who's to say the Portland Trailblazers won't sneak in and give the Lakers fits?
Yes, right. We forget Portland, if they can just get it together. Remember, last year, they get to the conference finals, the Western Conference Finals. They ran into a buzzsaw in the Warriors.
They ran into a depleted Warriors team. And nothing against the Portland Trailblazers. Nothing. I love Damian Lillard, who can shoot the basketball. Who can shoot the basketball, by the way, Ben Simmons. I love C.J. McCollum, who can shoot the ball Who can shoot the basketball, by the way, Ben Simmons, LeBron James, James Harden, Russell Westbrook. But they ran into a depleted Warriors team, and after the Warriors won game 1 in a rout, 3 separate times, the Blazers led Golden State by at least 15 points.
Yes.
And somehow Golden State comes back and wins all 3. And if you're Terry Stotts and the Portland Trailblazers, you had to be thinking, what the hell do I have to do to knock off these guys?
Right. They had them. They had them in those 3 games, as you said. But like you said, it's more it goes to the rating.
Mm-hmm.
Splash Brothers.
Yes.
Brothers.
You want to talk about some folk and Stephen, I love Stephen A. Smith, okay? He was so distraught when the Knicks lost out on drafting Zion. Have you noticed Stephen A. just kept talking about Zion being box office and not being a good player? This is the exact problem that we're seeing right now with this one and done rule that's been instituted and needs to go the blank away It needs to go.
It definitely needs to go. Yes, that one and done, because players are they either going to come straight out of high school or you make them, if you're going to do it, you got to make them stay a couple of years in college. But the one and done, they're not developing.
And that's exactly the reason why ratings have been down for at least 7 years. At least 7 years, the ratings have been down. This is my theory as to why the Warriors were hated. Because they actually had players that started and played, I don't know, maybe at least 3 years of college, and they get to the right situation and they actually developed and they actually play well together. And folks, I'm going to say this right now. Do not be surprised if there's a celebration in San Francisco next summer.
I am with you. We talked about it on my show. We talked about this. We said, okay, okay. Curry's hurt.
Yep.
He's supposed to be back this weekend. They said he's supposed to play Sunday, I believe. So good for that. Good for that situation. Curry's out. Clay's out. KD out, went to another team. Mm-hmm. So Draymond's playing with a lot of rookies, a lot of young players who are developing. For the Warriors, with Kerr in that system, okay, they're going to have probably the worst record in the league, or one of the worst records. They're going to get a top draft pick, and and who's to say they can't get another marquee player? Who's to say?
I got two rumors in the mill concerning the Golden State Warriors, concerning two players that Andrew Wiggins is going to be the bait. Along with some draft capital. And I exposed who these two players were last week on the program. I'm going to do it now. With this conversation, especially when I put my new segment together, Rumor Mill. The two players that are in play for Golden State and Golden State only, Karl Anthony Towns and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I like that. I've heard the Giannis one. I said, no way. It's one of those things you're like, no way. Like, are they gonna strike gold again? It's like they threw
no
it
one.
Again,
they did.
They
They said they wouldn't. They said Kevin Durant wouldn't sign with Golden State.
Yes, right.
We saw how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I got people telling me Giannis wants out of Milwaukee. Giannis wants out.
Especially if they don't go to the finals.
Which they won't.
Go to the finals.
Which they won't.
You got to go to the finals. Right. You got to get to the finals.
You got to win in Giannis's case, you have to win the thing.
Mm-hmm.
In Giannis's case,
get to the finals and win it.
You have to win it. And I don't see them doing it. Now, I got a lot of folks that are Bucks fans. And since we're talking playoffs, I may as well put this out here too. You know who I see coming out of the East? I have two choices. One of them, the Boston Celtics. The second, the Toronto Raptors. The defending world champions.
Yeah, they are the world champions, and they're playing just as good as when they without Kawhi as they did with Kawhi.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Nurse is a tremendous coach, got a tremendous system. They bought in. They're a cohesive team.
Nick Nurse is a tactician.
They have all the elements.
Okay.
Yes. They got all the elements. And they had the formula. They don't have Kawhi Leonard. That's a big piece. But they had the formula to say, okay, Giannis, and I know like you, I love Giannis until he could get
do too.
But
until Giannis
that playoff
can be consistent. Until Giannis can be consistent, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I just don't.
And he's got to get consistent. He's got to get consistent jump shot another guy who does attempt jumpers, a la Ben Simmons.
Thank you.
But like
Thank
said,
you.
Playoff time, they found a formula to how to stop him, and the team LeBron on the All-Star game, they found that formula how to stop Giannis in that fourth quarter.
Yep.
You pack that paint.
Pack that paint, and you send a posse after him. That's all you do.
Yes.
Keep him out of keep him out of the lane. You do it the
Toronto
old school.
did it.
You do it the old school way. You pack the paint and you send a posse after him. How many times did we see the Chicago Bulls in the 90s pack the paint when they were down and they were making a run to get back in the game? How many times have we seen them be down double-digit points, and before you could blink, they pack the paint, they turn on the pressure, and the next thing you know, it's a tie game and the Bulls have the ball going for the lead. And you're going, what?
Yes. The great players find a way they figure out a different way to score in the playoffs. So Giannis has to do that now. It's time. It's your time now. Like, you're going to win your second MVP. Who's my choice for MVP this year again?
Run away.
Yeah, run away MVP. Yes.
Run
so
away.
Now you want to be the best player. You got to develop that other gear, that other way to score, because they're not going to allow you to score.
And he's got to do
the
it
way
now.
You've been scoring in the regular season.
He's got to do it now. You got a month and a half left in the season. You got to do it now, and you got to trust your teammate. Here's the problem I see with Giannis. Giannis is a fabulous basketball player. Giannis is a fabulous athlete. Unlike the other athletes I've mentioned, Giannis actually knows how to play a little basketball. This is the key for Giannis. Giannis must trust his teammates, and his teammates need to step up. And unfortunately, I don't see it. You know, the regular season title is Milwaukee's to lose. They're going to run away with the regular season Eastern Conference title and the top seed in the East like they had last year. But the playoffs happen, and strange things happen in the postseason. Just ask the Portland Trailblazers.
Yes. right. Yeah, you're right about Milwaukee.
Just ask the Portland Trailblazers, and for that matter, just ask the Milwaukee Bucks last year.
Yep. Last year, top seed in the East again last year, and Toronto figured them out.
They roared out to a 2-0 lead. They roared out to a 2-0 lead. They win the first two in Milwaukee. But then Nick Nurse figured out a trick. Send a posse after Giannis and keep him out of the paint. If he makes it into the paint, make him earn it from the free throw line. Pack the paint, send a posse after him.
Yep. Don't let him get those dunks and those layups, those easy transition points. You pack the paint. And they had a guy named Kawhi Leonard who kind of stepped up and kept them on lock. But they packed the paint. They sent other guys, Siakam. Yeah, they sent Ibaka. They just sent bodies at him.
Lengthy bodies.
As you said,
lengthy bodies.
Length. And he didn't trust his team, which goes back to his teammates, as you said. Do you trust Chris Middleton? Do you trust Lopez?
I
Eric
don't.
Bledsoe. Can they? No,
I
don't.
I don't.
Knock shots down.
I'll trust them in the first two rounds. If they see either Boston or Toronto, forget it. I'm sorry, but you're talking about the two most complete teams in the East right now. And yes, Milwaukee is getting all the wins. Yes, Giannis is the runaway choice for most valuable player, at least in my eyes he is. But we're talking about two teams flying under the radar in the East, and the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors, and in some cases, the Indiana Pacers.
Yes. Don't forget about the Pacers.
Don't forget about basketball, and my wife's going to love NBA basketball in Indianapolis, Indiana, because these guys are playing hard. The Miami Heat are playing hard.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's the team. That's the dangerous team right there, the Miami Heat. Getting Andre Iguodala, with Jimmy Butler and all those young horses they got, shooters and, guys that could play defense and run the floor, and then Jimmy Butler, my goodness, that's a team that's flying on the radar. But I wanted to get back to the Celtics, though, because you definitely, they're a dangerous team. And Jason Tatum, I was watching something last night, I think it was, I don't know, the Sports Center, but they were talking about Tatum. He gets it now. He's getting it right now. Actually, it was PTI. The PTI, Will Bonin was saying Tatum gets it. And remember, like we were just saying earlier, 2 years ago, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie Irving.
They're 12 minutes away from winning the thing. They're 12 minutes away from unseating the Cleveland Cavaliers. Somehow the Cavaliers figured it out. Jason Tatum gets it. Jaylen Brown gets it. And the best move the Boston Celtics made was signing Kemba Walker.
Yes. So they got a team up and down. That's a team. I mean, yes, they don't have that. They don't have that legit big man, but they're a dangerous team. They are very, like you said, Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown. He really stepped up, and Tatum he's developing to that superstar level. He's getting it. So now they've had taste of the playoffs. They've been in the playoffs the last couple of years. So yeah, they're going to be tough too. Very tough.
And here's another thing. Since we're talking playoffs, which a lot of people expect me to do, and I do, they just don't pay attention. And I kid when I say that. Boston and Toronto and maybe Miami are the three most complete teams in the Eastern Conference right now. I can't say the same about Milwaukee because it's all about Giannis. I don't trust Chris Middleton I trust. Here's how I feel about Chris Middleton. Great basketball player. Yes. Running mate of Giannis. Yes. He's starting to get it. But will he get it after April 15th?
That's the question. Yes. That's a good question because, he's paid as a all-star caliber player. And now it's time to step it up and be that second guy, that trusted second guy, which you need in the playoffs, as we know from back in the day, Jordan and Pippen, Shaq and Kobe,
the Splash Brothers.
And KD.
The Splash Brothers.
So even
Cheeks
before
and
KD.
Cheeks and Tony. The Cheeks and Tony. The Bad Boys. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish.
Yeah. Does Giannis have that second guy? Middleton has to be the second guy for them to get far and to where they want to go in the championship.
So as far as ratings go, until we see the full return of the Splash Brothers, a healthy return of the Splash Brothers, the ratings are going to be in the tank because you don't have that one team. Love them or hate them, you want to see what they do every night. For me, it's not the Lakers. For me, it's other teams like the Boston Celtics, like the Portland Trail Blazers. Can they get it right and find a way to sneak into the playoffs? Can the San Antonio Spurs get it right? Or will their 23-year playoff streak end this year? There's so many intriguing questions. There's so many intriguing questions outside of Los Angeles. And the Lakers had, when the free agent deadline, the trade deadline, I beg your pardon, when the trade deadline came and went, and not a whimper from Lakertown, there are two indictments I make against that team on that day. They had a chance to sign two All-Stars, one of which is a regular season MVP. The other was a World Championship Series MVP. The regular season MVP they had a chance to sign in a trade was Derrick Rose.
Yep.
And the Finals MVP was Andre Iguodala.
Yes. And if they would have got one of those guys, which they need because their depth is not as good as they thought it was anyway.
Nope.
Derrick Rose, I was saying it before, you need another guy that can handle the ball who is, you said, a former MVP.
It's a former MVP and a former Finals MVP was there for the taking.
For the taking.
They were there for the taking.
They could have. Yes, and if they would have got one of those two guys, I would say, okay, Lakers, okay, you got LeBron AD, you got Andre Iguodala, who's been to finals, who's won a finals MVP, and you got a Derrick Rose who could, the big what if, could have got to a finals, but won an MVP at such a young age, who can handle the ball, who has playoff experience, good success playoff experience as well.
Yeah, and I think Derrick Rose got screwed in 2011. Him and the Bulls got screwed in 2011.
Yes, they did.
Finally, somebody that actually knows what I'm talking about. Let's go back to 2011. Derrick Rose and the Bulls blow out Miami in Game 1 of the East Finals. Up 7 at the end of 1 in Game 2, and you think, okay, this is another route. And then the whistles come out. Then Derrick Rose gets injured. They lose Omer Asik for the remainder of the series. And when we go down to Miami, tied 1 game apiece, not one doggone whistle in the Bulls' favor. Not one.
Yep.
They got screwed. They got royally screwed because my theory is they wanted to put LeBron in the World Championship Series and not an actual team in the World Championship Series.
Yep, I totally agree. I remember that. I remember that series, man, because with Derrick Rose, playing, and the Bulls were just they were destined to get to the finals.
They were the better team.
They were the better team. They were the better team, and they got, like you said, they got royally screwed on that year, and they just couldn't recover. And that's another thing with the ratings too. The bad referee. That's in all sports, but the officiating has been very, very skeptical, very bad. Football, NBA, college basketball, whatever, all across the board. There's been a lot of bad officiating. I don't mean to knock on the officials, but there's been a lot of bad officiating.
We'll close with this note. Last Sunday, when the Celtics and the Lakers played in the Staples Center, and I still wish at times it was the Forum, but I digress, Jason Tatum got whistled for an offensive foul that should not have been called. Jason Tatum got whistled for an offensive foul that should not have been called.
Right.
That should not have been called. And if you want to look at the footage very carefully, Jason Tatum got fouled.
He did.
That should have been 3 free throws.
Yep. He got fouled. He got fouled, so it goes to show why people are turning against the NBA, because part of it is the officiating is not as top notch as it used to be.
And I don't like that. I don't like that. That's Courtney Harden, the man in charge of The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter. At Get the Real Deal is the show page there on Twitter. You can hit me up on Twitter at Courtney110979. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. The show airs on Spreaker.com/BS3Radio. Shout out to Ben Sutter of BS3 Radio for for running BS3 Radio. So you can find it there. Show airs on Saturdays, noon, 12:30, 1, somewhere in between there, and always have great guests. So, definitely hit me up and give it a listen.
Well, I'd like to make that show a part of Snowman Digital Media as well, if you'll have it.
I appreciate that, definitely. I definitely would love that.
Now, before you go, I have 2 presents for you. The last time Courtney and I talked, He was on cloud nine over Lincoln Financial Field because his beloved Eagles shocked the world and shocked me and beat the Patriots, even though I officially picked the Eagles. There's a song I said I'd play for him, and the song kind of sounds like this.
There it is, that song.
E-A-T-L-E-S, Eagles!
All I can do is laugh.
Since you recognize that one, I know you'll recognize this.
Appreciate that. What a way to end the show, right?
This has been a series of startling contrasts, from the friendships off the court to the fierce hostility on it. We witnessed the youthful exuberance of the challengers and the poise of the champions. There's been hardship and pain, but not enough to overcome sheer guts and determination. These two teams have fought each other to a standstill, and tonight their destiny will be determined. It's just a question of who can endure this final hurdle. The Lakers hope to repeat history tonight, while the Pistons hope to make some. A championship is at stake, and only one team's prayers can be answered.
I love it.
And before I let you go, do you remember when it was called the World Championship Series? When CBS had the NBA contract instead of this NBA Finals stuff? It just, you know what? It just doesn't seem that prestigious anymore when it's called the NBA Finals. Bring it back to what it was originally called, the NBA World Championship Series. Oh, man. Courtney Harden joining me for a terrific conversation. I told you we were going to go off the rails, but we did some truth-telling as well. Thanks a lot, my friend. I truly appreciate the time. I love you. I got to have you back on soon.
Yes, thank you, man. Anytime. Whenever we could get together, we always do what we do, man. We just, like I said, we tell the truth, and that's what it's about.
and that has to return to sports talk, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, buddy.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what? I did not need to be told that.
Okay, folks, there's been enough basketball talk for a while, and spring training has started, so we're going to talk a little baseball, in particular the American League Central. And I welcome Ricky Keeler of Kicking It with Keeler on full press coverage as we bring back Keeler's K's. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Snowman. How are you?
I am doing good. Baseball is here, and I'm going to mention a team since we're in the American League Central, since that's the division we're previewing. I'm going to mention a team, and I'm going to be very biased when I mention this team, but I think they're going to make some noise. That team is the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, I like the White Sox this year. I think they're a team that can absolutely contend for a wild card spot. I mean, we talked about them a couple weeks ago from what I remember. Their lineup, top to bottom, very deep. I mean, you look at I'm interested to see what Luis Robert does in his first year, what he can bring to the table. They added the Parrot Man Encarnacion. Tim Anderson at the top of the lineup is always a strong threat to win a batting title. You have Moncada, Bray, the list goes on and on. I think the key for the White Sox is going to be their pitching. I mean, if and when they get Michael Kopech back, how that could change things for them. I think that's huge. Does Giolito continue to progress? Does Keiko bring that veteran presence you need? Does Lopez progress? And also in the bullpen. I mean, they just gave an extension to Aaron Bummer, so I'm sure they're not bummed out about that, but he helps out in the bullpen.
Right.
They've got Alex Cobb. I mean, if the White Sox, and they have the farm system to go out if they want to add a reliever at the deadline to help that out. I mean, they're in a good position now where they can contend for a wild card and not give up so many pieces to their future, where I think now is the time where you can expect them to play meaningful games in September.
And plus, with the injury to Yasmani Grandal, the calf injury, James McCann is still around. He was an all-star last year. So already the depth for the White Sox is proving to be a benefit, keeping McCann around.
Yeah, they got McCann on a very good deal where I think he's going to play a factor. Zach Collins also has some catching experience, so he could always help there as well. So I love the way that at least Rick Hahn at least addressed the depth portion in their lineup. I mean, they have a really strong bench. I think you definitely have to give them credit there. To me, it's just all about the pitching. If they can get any form of pitching, if they continue to develop, like if Dylan Cease would make that jump up as well. They need the pitching now to catch up with the offense.
Yeah, the pitching is absolutely going to be the key for the White Sox, but I like their chances to sneak into the playoffs this year. And if we're talking about the American League Central, it begins in the middle, and it ends with the defending division champion Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, I think the question with the Twins is it's just about, can they compete with the big guys in the American League? Can they compete with the Yankees in a best of five? We saw how bad that went for them last year. Can they compete with the Astros? So when you add Josh Donaldson to an offense that's already arguably top 2 or top 3 in baseball, you should be right back in this position. The key is going to be the pitching for them as well. Does Jose Barrios take that next step and be that reliable guy, especially in the playoffs? They added Kenta Maeda, which should help. They added Homer Bailey. They added Julius Chassin. They added Rich Hill, who will be back at some point this year. So they've at least added more bodies to the equation. It's just about the quality of what they get, I think, is the question mark. Taylor Rogers is the second-year closer. What does he do? The Twins are deep. I mean, the question for me, Snowman, is not how good they're going to be. It's how great they can be.
Right. And I absolutely agree with that. The wild card in this division is going to be the Cleveland Indians. After basically being sellers at the deadline, can they bounce back and make this a 3-team race?
I think that's the big question. I think it starts with Clevenger. I mean, how quickly can Mike Clevenger come back? Because if they get off to a bad start, they're a team that has the pieces to sell. I mean, obviously the name Francisco Lindor is going to pop up if they're out of contention by July. That way a team can get both this pennant race and the next pennant race with him. But the Indians always seem to find young pitching. I mean, they're kind of like the Cardinals of the American League, where you get rid of Trevor Bauer, you get rid of Corey Kluber, and you have Shane Bieber, you have Zach Plesac. You added Logan Allen on that Franmil Reyes trade in the Bauer trade last year. Aaron Savali is another young kid. So they just seem to find different guys they can plug in there and be effective. Now, it's bad for them that they seem to have lost the guy they got in the Kluber trade, Emmanuel Classic, for the next couple months. That's never a good thing at all. So you have to wonder what they're thinking about that. But for Cleveland, I think, to me, I'm intrigued by their outfield because you added Domingo Santana this past early in this month. I think he'll help out. Reyes in the American League for a full year, I think, will be interesting for them. They added Cesar Hernandez for the infield this winter. But I think also, as I said, their outfield, you have Jake Bowers, you have Bradley Zimmer. That could be options for them at the major league level. You never can count out Terry Francona, but it just feels like the Indians, at some point, the more they don't seem to add significant pieces, the more you wonder if this is the year they take a step back. Because this is a team that missed the playoffs despite winning almost 95 games last year.
Right. And on top of that, this was the team in 2017 that won 102 games but got eliminated in the division series by the New York Yankees by allowing the Yankees to come back from a 2-game deficit. Keeler's K's here on the program as we preview the American League Central. How bad does it get for the Tigers and the Royals this year?
Tigers, I think it's going to be pretty bad. The one thing I think you got to look for in Detroit is when do you see guys like Casey Mize? When do you see guys like Alex Faedo? Like, when do the young guns from Detroit start to come up and make an impact on the pitching side? Because I think offensively, they're not really in the best position right now to be in contention. They don't really have that star prospect that maybe makes that impact, at least offensively, for them. I mean, Miguel Cabrera continues to get older. That never helped. They did add a couple of free agents to the mix. They added Austin Romine to help as a veteran behind the plate. They added TJ Crone, added Jonathan Scope. But the Tigers really, I mean, what happens? Do they trade Matt Boyd at the deadline as if he's the best chip on the table to clear a spot for a guy like Mize or somebody like that? They did add Ivan Nova, but I don't really know what that's going to be. Jordan Zimmerman is on the downside of his career. So really, I like the Royals' chances better than the Tigers, just because I think Kansas City's got at least more players make an impact. Like they have Whit Merrifield, who's always consistent. They have Mondesi, who can steal bases. Jorge Soler was one of the best home run hitters in the American League last year. So there's at least some optimism with the Royals to at least, I won't say be competitive, because last year they were at like 59 wins. I think they can definitely get in the 60 win mark. And to me, the Royals, I think it's another team, like we talked about the Orioles, where you buy their MILB package. You probably buy your MILB package for the Royals, because you have guys like Brady Singer in the minors, and you have Chris Vujic and Daniel Lynch, and you have these guys that can make an impact down the road. So both the Royals and Tigers have good farm systems, but you can't expect them to do anything in 2020 other than just be spoilers for maybe Minnesota or the White Sox or the Indians down the stretch.
Is this a 2-team race or a 3-team race in the American League Central? Because we talked about the 3 teams that could make that will make it a race: Minnesota, Chicago, and Cleveland. But is this Minnesota and Chicago's division to compete for?
I'm still gonna go 3. I'm very hesitant on 3. It's just I can't count out Terry Francona. It's tough for me to do that just because he's one of those managers that seems to get the most out of less. Like, we throw Kevin Cash's name in there. We throw Girardi's name in there at times. Francona adds to that mix because he always seems to get his teams in contention. I think the Indians will at least be around for maybe a wild card like the White Sox. Because remember, the White Sox, they still have, as talented as they are, they still have to prove they can make that jump as well. So I'll say 3. You can make the case for 2, absolutely, but to me, I'm not going to be the one that counts out Terry Francona.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. That's our preview of the American League Central with Rick Keeler on Kicking It with Keeler. You can catch Kicking It with Keeler. I knew I'd mess that up. On fullpresscoverage.com. Keeler's Caves is with you every week as we take you to and through the 2020 Major League Baseball season. Thanks for the time, my friend. Truly appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
I don't care what he says. My White Sox are going to compete for not only a wild card, but a division title. But about 2 or 3 quantum leaps have to be made. And like Ricky said, it's going to be all about the pitching. That part I know. Yes, I'm a fan, but I'm also a realist. It's going to be all about the pitching for the Chicago White Sox. Because remember, when they won it in 2005, they had the fearsome foursome in their starting pitching rotation. John Garland, Freddie Garcia, Mark Burley, Jose Contreras. Who's going to be the fearsome foursome for the Chicago White Sox for them to make the first of the 2 quantum leaps they need to make in order to take over that division? They're going to compete this year. Will they win the division? Probably not. Not with the Minnesota Twins hanging around, and you know weird stuff happens in Minnesota when the Sox go to Minnesota anyway, be it the Metrodome or Target Field. Stupid things happen in Minnesota, but it's going to be a fun race to watch. Got more for you in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning,
I did not need to be told that.
where true sports talk lives.
Excellent.
Can't wait. So I decided to bring William Morgan back so we can talk some NBA and end this show the right way. With the playoffs looming, with all these... hell, I'm going to go ahead and say it. You know all these bronze sexuals are getting on my nerve now, right?
No, he didn't say that.
I didn't come up with the term. Someone else came up with the term for me.
Yes. Yeah, someone else did.
Someone else, one of my dearest friends, came up with the term. But these bronzexuals are getting on my nerve. They're getting on my nerves. Yes, the Lakers are first in the West. Yes, LeBron is having a great season. But will y'all get it right? He's not carrying that team. Anthony Davis is.
And I think another thing that sort of kind of sticks out about that Lakers organization to me, they are so, how can I say, gung-ho for trying to win a title.
Now.
They're bringing in the ultimate head case, Dion Waiters. Now, if that don't tell you something, nothing will.
You mean to tell me that a proud franchise like the Los Angeles Lakers, they're going to take a risk on Dion Waiters?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
That's the story that I saw. That's the story that I saw today. And also, they released someone to make a roster spot available. So if they want to sign him, they can truly sign him.
And you know something? Someone just got this to my attention. Matter of fact, my wife just put this up on the screen for me. You know who else is working out for them?
Who?
J.R. Smith.
See. They're trying to be. They're trying to be Cavs West. That's what they're trying to be. They're trying to be Cavs West.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Now watch Cleveland buy Kevin Love and Kevin Love go over to the Lakers. I'm telling you, man.
Oh yeah,
man.
They're all in. They're all in to win now, and they're going to have the oldest team on the floor. Here's my problem. There were two players out there at the trade deadline that they had a chance to snatch and didn't do it. And those two players were Derrick Rose and Andre Iguodala, a former MVP and a former Finals MVP. And they went after neither of them. Why?
Because management didn't want to part ways with Kuzma. They overvalue Kuzma. And the thing that kills me, outside of scoring, what is Kuzma bringing to the table?
Not a damn thing.
Outside of scoring, he's not locking anybody up on defense.
Nope.
He's not getting a lot of rebounds. He's not getting a lot of assists. All he's going to do is score. Ain't a bad shot he don't like. He'll come down the floor. He's not even trying to initiate the offense. He'll shoot a three. He'll jack a three up. And whether he make it or miss it, he'll run back down the court all proud of himself. No. And the rumor has it, the teams also wanted Danny Green, and the Lakers didn't want to give up both players. So,
that whole Laker team is a head case.
And the team still suffers from its primary issue. They don't have a bona fide outside shooter. They don't have a consistent outside shooter.
That's not the only issue. That's not the only issue. The biggest issue. Their main issue is an issue they've had for 2 years. No point guard.
Yeah. That too. Exactly. That too.
They've had no point guard for 2 seasons, depending on the experience of Rajon Rondo to get them to June. Why?
Rondo gives effort. I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't. He gives effort.
I'll give you that.
But he's not considered in terms of having a consistent jump shot. He's gonna be he could be a liability on defense. Particularly if they play someone like a Denver. Jamal Murray can just go to town on him. And I just think that between no point guard, LeBron playing those types of minutes that he's playing, and no consistent outside shooting,
None.
Oh, the Lakers are going to be in trouble. And people look at the Clippers and say, they're malcontents. But when you look at what they're doing, they've won 8 straight when they've had a healthy roster.
Yep.
So they have the perimeter defenders. Zubac will be good enough on the inside to at least slow down AD. He won't stop him, but he'll at least slow him down.
Yeah.
They got the perimeter people to stop LeBron. I just like the Clippers. And if the Lakers don't watch it, Denver can give them a run for their money.
Not only can Denver give them a run for their money, Memphis can give them a run for their money.
I love Ja Morant. Yes, I respect what Zion has been doing. He's a huge fan of. A lot of people, are looking at him, and he's playing great basketball. But let's look at Zion's game right now. Outside of a couple of threes here and there, he's playing within 4 or 5 feet, and
which to me presents this problem. His footwork has been exposed.
Yeah, and it doesn't help either that he's a tweener.
Exactly.
It doesn't help him at all that he's a tweener. The one thing about Larry Johnson, a player who he is compared to a lot of the times. He was a 6'7", 6'8" true small forward.
That he was.
You look at Zion; he's a tweener, and while he is big, he is strong. But on the other end, does he have the footwork on defense to stop opposing small forwards?
And my answer is no.
Mm-hmm. He's going to be going up against the LeBrons. He's going to be going up against the Kawhi Leonards. He's going to be going up against the Jimmy Butlers. And yes, he'll cause havoc on the other end maybe, but on the defensive end, he doesn't have the footwork to stay with anyone on the perimeter.
And not only does he not have the footwork, he doesn't have the conditioning either. He cannot get up and down the floor.
That time that he was recovering from that energy really, really hurt him. Not only did it hurt him from his development, but it also hurt him from the standpoint of learning how to play, moving your feet, getting your defensive bearings about you on how to attack certain players, and on the defensive end, and that hurt him as well. He's going to have to be a better defender, and he's also going to have to come up with a consistent jump shot. If you give him a mid-range game, mid-range on down, he should be fine. But if he never picks up that mid-range game, eventually he's going to have trouble.
He's got trouble now. Now, and a lot of people love saying to me, "Oh, well, you have to give him a chance." I have given him a chance. This is where I lie with Zion Williamson. He's a fantastic athlete. And people who know this sentence coming from me knows I've said this before about one LeBron James. It goes like this. He's a fantastic athlete. He's not a good basketball player.
Yeah.
Ja Morant is a fantastic athlete, and he's a good basketball player that can only get better.
He's a complete basketball player,
that
too.
He is.
Let's not forget to say that.
Yeah.
Let's not forget to say that, too.
He is.
But it's going to be interesting to see if Zion will figure things out, because he's got so much working against him right now. And he's in New Orleans. Someone who has people from that area in his family, that food down there is no joke. You're going to have to stay away from the jambalaya and things like that to keep his weight under control. That's going to be a constant issue with him.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I remember him in college. Does it look to you and it may be because of the injury, does it look to you that he lost some explosiveness between college and now?
Yep.
That wasn't just me. Okay.
No, it wasn't just you. It wasn't just you. I saw that. People don't want to acknowledge that.
Right.
People do not want to acknowledge that since that injury that occurred at Cameron Indoor Stadium against North Carolina, he's lost a lot, including his explosiveness.
It's going to be interesting to see what he can do to make up for a lot of this stuff. Remember, Larry Johnson was on sort of kind of like the same path. But once his back injury occurred,
it derailed him.
Yeah, it derailed him big time. But before that point, outside of LJ not being able to shoot the three ball, you had no issues with Larry Johnson in terms of an athlete or a basketball player.
Exactly. Zion is one major injury, and he already had one, because when he blew out of his shoe at Duke, it cost him two injuries, one to his foot and the other to his knee.
Yeah.
That messed him up, and I believe it's going to mess him up for a while until he gets some weight off of him. This is from a guy who has struggled with weight most of his life. I know how it feels. I am very empathetic when it comes to Zion Williamson. Okay? But at the same time, he's got to chop some weight. And my contention is, and Gilbert Arenas was the first to say this, and I saw this in an online interview, Zion Williamson's playing out of position.
Yeah.
He is too heavy, and nothing against Zion. I mean, I'll say it again. He's a fantastic athlete. People want to know my thoughts? Here they are. He's a fantastic athlete. Okay? But I believe he should be a shooting guard. If he ever develops great footwork, takes off some weight, and a consistent jump shot, he'll be one of the most dangerous shooting guards outside of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson in the league.
Yeah. Because there's physical gifts. Yeah, that is true.
I mean, he'd be a version of Scottie Pippen if he ever develops a jump shot and takes off some weight.
I also think that Brandon Ingram needs to show up more. It just can't be Zion Love for that team to be successful.
Exactly.
Ingram has to show up. What's that?
Exactly.
He's going to have to show up more. Lonzo Ball's going to have to show up more. Other people on that team are going to have to come up with some big-time performances if they're going to take over that 8th spot from Memphis.
And it cannot be just Drew Holiday and Zion Williamson. Have you noticed with New Orleans that since Zion has come onto the floor, everybody else has taken a step back?
Yeah, everybody's taking the back seat, and that can't happen.
No.
That can't happen.
That can't happen. And it shouldn't be happening. Yeah, Zion is the centerpiece, and I wish nothing but the best for him. Okay? But at the same time, everybody on that team, Zion included, is going to have to make some changes and step up their game. And so far they haven't.
Right. He changes the game because defenses rather focus on stopping him. He's changed the game that way. But on the other end, how you making your teammates better? Where are your assist numbers to go along with the points and the rebounds? How are you making your teammates better? That's my issue with him. Ja doesn't have that.
No.
Ja doesn't have that issue because Ja can see the whole floor.
Ja is wonderful at seeing the floor. Ja is absolutely fantastic at seeing the floor. And since we're talking about who's the runaway rookie of the year, it's Ja Morant, and it's not even close. How about another race that's not even close? And that's the most valuable player award. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo and nobody else. Period.
Nope. Giannis, and that's it. Giannis, and that's it.
And people want to put LeBron in this MVP conversation. I don't think so. He's lost a step. He's lost a shot. I mean, he's doing everything he can to will his Lakers into the NBA World Championship Series. But it's only March. You got to get through April and May before you get to June.
They talked about this earlier today on Undisputed, and the one thing that was interesting about Giannis, he leads the league in PER and defensive win shares.
Yes.
So if you lead the league in offense and defense, it's kind of tough not to give it to him.
Yeah.
Now the narrative would be different with LeBron because he's such a media darling and people love this and people love that. Like the interview he gave today, where he told people they can kiss it behind. The media just ate that up.
They did. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
But outside of the narrative, Giannis has been the best on the floor.
Mm-hmm. He's been absolutely the best on the floor. He's the runaway MVP, and no one else should get consideration, especially not LeBron.
Right.
Here's the other point. Giannis, yes, I will give Giannis the MVP right now, but I don't trust Milwaukee coming out of the East.
I think the issue with Milwaukee, they don't have another superstar on that squad. Yes, they have Chris Middleton, solid star-type player.
Very.
But they don't have another superstar on that roster that can really help them win.
Right.
You see that in Boston. You see that somewhat in Toronto. You don't see that with Milwaukee. And if Giannis were to go down for some reason, Milwaukee may still end up being a playoff team because you're playing in the East. But in the West,
not a chance.
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
Not a chance at all.
And I would love to see them to get a second superstar there because again, Chris Middleton's very, very good. No slight to Chris, but he's just not that superstar player, and that may come back to bite Milwaukee.
One more point before we close up shop for the day. I put out on social media that there are two big men that are being targeted to go to Oakland, or San Francisco rather, and join the Warriors. And when I put these two names out there, people thought I was sick in the head. Listen to these names carefully.
Okay.
Karl Anthony Towns.
Believe that.
And the other is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Believe that too. And the reason why I believe both of them is because if you look at the markets in which they play, both markets are small, and Giannis is now hasn't been on a losing team, but Karl Anthony Towns has, and I know he's sick and tired of it more than likely. So if you can get him out of Minnesota to Golden State with a Steph Curry, with a Klay Thompson, with a Draymond Green. Draymond is suffering without Steph and Klay. He's suffering.
He's suffering without the Splash Brothers. And I'm glad. A quick point. I'm glad they didn't bring Steph back on Sunday. Save him for next year. That's all I'm going to say.
That's what I say too.
Save the Splash Brothers for next year because the season's already lost. But
that's what I say too.
They're going to get a high draft pick. They're going to be one of the ones for the first time in a while. They're going to be in the draft lottery.
Yeah.
What if they mess around? What if they mess around and get the number one pick? You think they won't flip? You think they won't flip that into a trade? Come on, it's out there. If they get one of the top 3 picks, if they if they win the draft lottery and land the top pick and land the number 1 pick,
flip it.
I can pretty much guarantee you they will not keep it.
Nope, they'll flip it. And if you get a Karl Anthony Towns around that talent of Curry, Thompson, Draymond, if you keep Anthony Wiggins, which I doubt if you bring KAT over, doubt if you keep Wiggins, but that 4 right there, that 4. That can cause some problems.
And the Warriors have some more draft capital to use to get some better players. The one player I like right now is Jordan Poole, shooter out of Michigan. I like how
back
he's
into.
coming along. I like how Eric Pascal's coming along, and Pascal's a defensive
Mm-hmm.
wizard.
Yep.
Put those two together with the players that you mentioned, and either Giannis or Karl Anthony Towns, it's Kevin Durant all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's Kevin Durant all over again. And you know, there's people pushing back saying, "Oh, Karl won't go to San Francisco for a chance to win a world championship." Yes, he will.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He'll go.
And I'll give you a mitigating. I will give you a circumstance that, should this happen, I'll give you a circumstance in which the Greek Freak comes west, and I don't mean to the Lakers either. I'll give you a circumstance which brings Giannis to San Francisco. If the Bucks do not get out of the East, Giannis gets out of Milwaukee. Period.
I'm there with you. Because when you look at it, they are the best team. But if you look at a weakness, the weakness might end up being Milwaukee's coach.
Budenholzer.
He got out-coached. Yeah, he got out-coached against Toronto last year in the playoffs.
And they had no business losing that series.
Mm-hmm. And everybody keeps talking about that lucky shot by Kawhi. No, he got out-coached by Toronto. Nick Nurse just out-coached it. So
Nick Nurse out-coached Steve Kerr. What does that say about a first-year coach? Nick Nurse out-coached Steve Kerr, and Steve Kerr and the Warriors have ruled the roost for the past 5 years.
Yep.
So,
that's why when you said on social media Toronto could defend that title, it's a possibility. You can't trust Boston. You don't know what Boston team you're gonna get. No, you can't trust Philly.
You know what? I hope Philly drops to. I mean this in no harm, but I hope Philly drops to the 8th spot and gets mopped up by Milwaukee. Why, you ask?
I don't understand.
Because I'm sick and tired of people saying Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are going to carry the Sixers to a title, and they haven't carried them past the second round in the years they've been together.
You talk about somebody going to San Francisco. You need to take Ben Simmons and put him in San Francisco.
Hell no. Hell no.
You know what? But you know why I say it's perfect? But you know why I say it's perfect?
Why?
I say it's perfect because he'll have the one thing he doesn't have in Philly. He'll have verified, versatile shooters on that club. And when you have shooters on that club, if you want him to run the point, you can have him run the point. He bring the ball up the floor. You got Steph. You got Clay. Why not?
But you take the ball out of Steph's in creating the offense. You take the ball out of a very familiar pair of hands in Steph Curry. No, that combination will not work. That combination will not work. You take the ball out of very familiar hands. This is why I love talking to you. You take the ball out of very familiar hands, part one. Part two, you disrupt their defense. Okay? You want to piss.
That's true.
You want to piss Mike Brown off? You want to piss Mike Brown off? Don't play defense for Golden State.
But the one thing I do want to see, I want to see Ben Simmons get out of there. Him and Joel are not good together.
They haven't been compatible together
at all.
No.
They're not good together at all.
They're not. They're really not. And I'll say it again. Yeah, you can have the idea of sending Ben Simmons to the Chase Center in San Francisco, but you want to upset Mike Brown, who's the defensive coordinator for the Warriors? Don't play defense. Okay? Everybody that has come through the Warriors dynasty, and it's still a dynasty, folks. This is just an off year, so get the idea out of your head that they're not going to rise again. Which one final point, and I gotta bring this up. Cole Johnson brought this to my attention. Rob Parker, who's part of the show called The Odd Couple on FS1 and on iHeartRadio, said something that really ruffled my nerves.
What do you say now?
He said the Warriors dynasty is over. And he also said the Warriors only won because of Kevin Durant.
let me try to be respectful because he's at a place where I want to be. But let me be respectful.
You already are. You're on the show with me, but I digress.
His viewpoints are a little outdated because of the fact it wasn't because of just Kevin Durant that they won the championships that they won. It wasn't because of him. They won one before Kevin Durant.
Thank you.
So you can't say that. And I hear him sometimes talk about that, talk about how Brady is over the hill and done. Viewpoints are kind of
as much as I don't like Tom Brady. As long as Tom Brady is breathing, there's some fight left in him.
Yes.
As long as Tom Brady, it's like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, all the great. As long as Tom Brady breathes, there's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just for him to say, for Rob Parker, who's a friend of mine, to say that it's because of Kevin Durant, are you bleeping nuts?
It's just an outdated viewpoint. It really is. That's something that he needs to lose and remove from his vernacular because it's not true.
It isn't true. And next year they're going to prove. And next year they're going to prove it. Just watch. They're going to prove it next year. And I'm putting. You want to add something to the rumor mill? I'm doing the full rumor mill tomorrow, folks. Yeah, I'm doing a full 20 minutes on the rumor mill in different sports tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll give you three right now that I'm going to touch on. The Warriors dynasty is finished. Karl Anthony Towns won't wind up in the Bay. Giannis Antetokounmpo won't wind up in the Bay. Here's a what if for you, and we'll close with this. What if the Warriors got both of them?
I don't know. I
know that's
know
not
how
possible.
You do that from a salary cap perspective.
I know that's not possible. I know that is not possible, especially with the capital.
If somebody took a hit, but if somebody took that hit, oh my goodness, you can forget it. The Clippers have nothing for that. The Lakers have nothing for that. You can just forget it. They would. If they lost a game, it'd be because they're bored. Oh my goodness!
Like the Bulls back in the '90s. I know they're not going to get both of them, but I believe one of them will wind up in San Francisco. I believe one of those two. And I'm thinking it's more Karl Anthony Towns than Giannis, but Giannis is in play. Giannis is in play. All right, let me get out of here. William Morgan joining me. He was on earlier to talk some XFL. He's now talking some NBA. He'll join me every week. We're going to get back on schedule. Man, such a pleasure to have you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, my friend.
That'll do it from Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you all for tuning in to this edition of the program. And I can't thank you all enough for those of you that listen via RTF Sports Network, via Full Press Coverage, Arena Sportsnet, KSRN Arizona, and other outlets. You can hear the podcast of this show 1 hour after this show is completed. And guess what? This show is completed. The podcast will be up in an hour. Until next time, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope y'all are too. Until next time, Snowman out.